Welcome, Thing fans. This is Pete from DALWHINNY, and with me is my wife, Kala.
Hiya!
And this is Volume 2 of John Carpenter's The Thing in Context. If you haven't seen Volume 1 yet, check it out now. It discusses the genesis of the movie from the 1938 novella all the way up until the movie being made in 1982. Here in Volume 2, we're going to be discussing the movie itself. First up, we're going to discuss the timeline of events. How long does this story take place?
You mean an hour and 49 minutes?
Thank you, honey. We're going to discuss how many days does this story unfold and then what events happen on each day. We originally had plans to include a segment about John Carpenter's storytelling formula, but this video has become very long, and so what we've decided to do is make that a separate segment because if we really want to discuss his formula, we have to incorporate a lot of the other films that he has done, and so we decided it would be best to make that a separate video that we will put out shortly. And then we're going to discuss what you're all here for, the mean potatoes of this whole project, the fan theories about this movie. We're going to take what we consider the main five. Who's the shadow on the wall? When was Blair assimilated? Who got to the blood? What happened to Fuchs? And who's who at the end? We're going to take each one of these and discuss them in context, what the filmmakers intended, and any extras. We'll get into details about that later. We're going to break this down into chapters so you can either watch it all or skip to whichever theory interests you the most. We know that a lot of people are very passionate about this movie and especially about their theories on what happened. But please, be kind, be courteous in the comments.
Be respectful.
Right, we don't need to be a dick. Let's have a good argument, a good discussion, a good back and forth, and let's just enjoy ourselves about this film that we are all so very passionate about.
Agree to disagree. This is a safe place. Be nice.
So, here we go. What you all been waiting for.
We're back.
We're back.
All right. Now we're going to discuss the timeline of events in the movie, going to day-to-day analysis of what happens on each day.
So day one, the dog is running into camp with a Norwegian hot on its tails, guns a-blazing.
So then all that happens, and then they decide to go to the Norwegian camp to see what happened there. They find Splitface. They bring him back. They autopsy Splitface. And
They decide to go to bed.
and later that night, the dog attacks in the kennel.
Yes.
And that is the end of day one.
Yeah, because you actually do get to see daylight and nighttime.
Yes.
Daytime, nighttime.
Day two, daytime, you can see, and Blair autopsies the dog thing.
Mm-hmm. Then, after watching the Norwegians' video, they decide to go to see the spaceship, or at least the spot that they were digging at, and find the spaceship.
Then they come back and they have a bit of a discussion about it. They move the things into the storeroom, and that is where Bennings is assimilated, and that's when they destroy all the rest of the specimens that they have.
Later that evening is when, was it McCready and Fuchs are speaking, and they notice Blair's destroying everything, and he has his freak out in the radio room. That's nighttime. So that's end of day two.
Day three, it's daytime again, and you can see Blair being escorted to the tool shed.
Clearly drugged.
Mm-hmm. Then there's the discussion on figuring out who's who. Copper says, well, we can do a blood test. But that's a no-go because then they come and reveal that the blood test has been, or the blood has been sabotaged.
And then a whole who's going to take over and be leader kind of thing happens.
Mm-hmm. Then at nighttime you can see that they burn the bags, and that's when Mac does the I know I'm human speech, and that's where he indicates there's a storm hitting us in 6 hours. We're going to find out who's who.
Alright, so that's the end of day three. So day 4 and 5 are not seen at all. Obviously nothing happens. The next time you get any inkling of what's going on is Mac is doing his little voiceover monologue, and he says the storm has been hitting us for 48 hours now.
So he said it was 6 hours until the storm. Now the storm's been hitting for 48 hours. So that's 54 hours since that speech. And we feel that the recording was done, on the overnight period between day 5 and into 6.
But as of this point on, you really don't get any indication of time passing. They'll make a few mentions of it, but you don't get to see daytime anymore. You just have to go by how the movie had been paced the first half. And then here's where we start getting our assumption into how days are passing.
This is what we believe happened on day 6. Based on how Carpenter tells the story on the first few days, we have to judge based on that pacing, so this is what we think happened on day 6.
So Matt gets done his recording, and somewhere between, in that overnight period between 5 and 6, the next thing you see is he goes and talks to Fuchs. You don't know if that's immediately after or some time has passed, because he kind of looks refreshed.
Just a bit. Then Fuchs is lured outside. He disappears. And then Mac comes up again and goes, "Where's Fuchs?"
And somebody mentions, well, lights were out for about an hour. Oh, that was Mac.
Yes. We don't know how much time has passed since Fuchs disappeared. It could be hours since then.
Right. So they go out and talk to Blair. They is Mac, Windows, and Knowles.
Blair says it ain't Fuchs. Then on their way back, that's when Windows spots Fuchs, or his corpse anyway.
And that's when Windows goes inside, and Mac and Knowles head up to the shack because the light's on.
Right. Cut back to inside. Child seems to be the de facto leader now, and says how long have been out there. Nor says 40 to 45 minutes.
And then they start building barricades. The next time you see them, they have a fair amount of stuff up. Now, if you've DIY'd, you know how long it takes for you to grab your nails and your hammer and all your stuff. And even though they've been just breaking the boards, not sawing them, they have a fair amount done. So there's a pretty decent amount of time that passed. Even though it's a handful of guys doing it, they've still gotten a lot done. So this isn't just done in 5-10 minutes.
No, not really.
This is probably in what Mac and Knowles are doing. That's between them. That's none of my business.
All right, so they spot Knowles trying to come back in. They have the discussion that Knowles says he's one of them. He brings out the shirt. Then Mac is trying to get back in.
And that's when Norris begins to have his attack and shows to be a thing. And that takes a while. How long is he even in cardiac arrest, or what appears to be cardiac arrest?
Right, because he has a sweater and coat on, and then when you get him into the lab, that's all gone off him already.
And they've woken up Dr. Copper from his morphine stupor.
Yes. So, and that what we believe is probably the end of day 6. They clean all that mess up, and then this is overnight from day 6 into day 7 now, and this is where they start thinking about doing the blood test.
So they decide about doing the blood test, but this is where they're getting tensions are really high, and Mac shoots Clark. So then he's tied onto the table.
Right.
That takes a while.
And so they start doing the blood test proper. Eventually Palmer is outed as the thing, and then attacks and kills Windows, and then Mac gets rid of Palmer, and then he comes back and burns Windows.
By the time he starts testing Knowles' blood, clearly things looks like they've been tidied up. So another chunk of time has had to have passed for him to tidy stuff up, and there's no way that no way that wall is still gaping open. He had to put a tarp or something over it. I know we're getting very pedantic, but this is how you have to notice the move as a wall. Obviously, some time has passed because now...
Right.
Pardon me.
So they finish testing everybody. Everybody in the room is human, so they got to go test Blair. They leave Childs behind. They go up to the tool shed. They realize Blair is not there. Obviously, at this point, everybody's pretty aware that Blair is a thing.
They find the little hidey hole.
They go down there. They discover the ship.
It was very nice that he built stairs.
Yeah.
I don't know. That didn't
Convenient.
It didn't look like it was a slithery hole. It looked like it actually, he trots down there.
So, all right, now they have to blow the ship. They see that Childs runs out into the storm. They don't know why.
They're A-teaming everything at the same time, getting Molotov cocktails, and the tractor has all kinds of canisters strapped to it.
All kinds of gas cans all over it, yeah.
And then there are rolls of dynamite. Who's got that much dynamite laying around him?
So Blair blows the generator, and that's when they bust in with the tractor. And that's when they start blowing the whole base, bit by bit.
So this is all of day 7, but it's nighttime, so it's got to be evening day 7.
And then they start blowing up the whole base, and then they start working on going down to the generator room. Generator's not there.
It's gone, McCready.
So they decide to blow the whole place up and bring it down into the ice. They go off in their separate ways, not very smart.
Everybody gets picked off.
And then Mac is left there by himself. Then you have the final showdown. Mac throws a stick of dynamite, that completely necessary combat roll. And then,
hey, you know what? You gotta let Dick Warlock do his job. Come on.
And then the whole camp goes up. Then you cut to Mac emerging from the rubble with a blanket and a bottle of booze. And then Childs shows up.
So he bumps into Childs, and they have their little exchange and basically resign themselves to freezing to death. We believe that when you factor everything in that they've done, that is probably overnight between day 7 and day 8. So basically, their frozen little selves, their toasting with J and B, is probably going to be dawn of day 8.
So yeah, basically, roughly this whole movie takes place over the span of about a week and then some.
7 to 8 days.
So that is the timeline as we best see it. We hope this timeline adds a bit of clarity to the movie. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Up next, we have the meat and potatoes of this video.
It's your fan theories and other crazy ideas.
All right, now this is where everybody wants to be. The discussion of all of the fan theories that everybody's had for the last 40 plus years. This is what this video series is all about. We're going to discuss the 5 main points of discussion in the movie. The shadow on the wall. When was Blair infected? Who got to the blood? What happened to Fuchs? And who is human or who may not be human at the end of the film? We're going to take each one of these in turn, and we're going to examine them just in the context of the movie itself. No other outside information. What can the movie tell you? Then we're going to go next to what the filmmakers intended. We're going to see if what they can add and what they wanted us to understand as the movie goes along. And then the third aspect is any extras, anything, little tidbits of personal information, any little bits of trivia, that kind of stuff, or anything else that we could add to enjoy this movie even more.
Something was like cut out or
right,
something that they made a change or a decision or whatever. Yeah, we've got some tittlebittles.
I like that tittlebittles.
Tittlebittles.
So, all right, first up, we're going to talk about the shadow on the wall. As you know, if you've watched the movie, and if you haven't, please stop now and go watch it. The shadow on the wall. Mac and Copper, they go to the Norwegian base. So the dog is left wandering around. The dog, named Jed in real life, did a marvelous job at its performance. It comes to a hallway and starts going down, and then you see it come to a doorway, and there's a shadow on the wall. And it's been an endless discussion on who that is.
Yeah, it looks like they turned their head.
Mm-hmm.
And
so, all right, who is it? All right, so what we have to do is we have to see, well, who are things later in the movie? We know Blair was. Obviously, it's not Blair because Blair had a bald head, and that's not bald on the shadow.
Balder. He's not 100% bald.
No, but he's got the pate at top.
Yeah.
And then the other two that were revealed to be things later on were Norris and Palmer. Now
they do have like curly-ish sort of hair.
Yeah, and that's what you see in the shadow. It's not like the lion's mane that Mac has or anything like that.
Or the tight cropped hair that Childs has.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's basically
he's shaved bald.
He's bald. And Knowles has a little bit up top. So those are the two options really: Palmer or Norris, and it goes back and forth all the time. So as a kid watching this movie for the first 20 years it's been out, long before any internet anything revealed anything, I'd always believed it to be Palmer. Now the reason why is that later in the movie, I believe Norris was assimilated in a different way. I believe Norris was assimilated because Fuchs said about eating your own meals and eating out of cans. And I think that's how Norris was assimilated. He ate something and it grew inside him. But
because why else would you say something like that if that wasn't like a clue to one of the assimilations?
Right. One of the other indications that Palmer is the culprit, or is the victim in this case, is that during the time of Blair, his crack up and he's busting up place, he's nowhere to be seen. So that could be an indication that he's off doing something else,
more
something
clandestine,
more
sort of
thing stuff. But we can also get to that later, because that's what it says. It could only be Palmer. So there's not much else to explain. And
well, I can explain a little bit. It's like if any of you saw our Celtic Fling video, you see I'm a chonky girl.
Chonky.
And I will admit, when a chonky person sees their shadow, and I'm so sorry to the gentleman who played Norris.
Charles Hallahan.
He's since passed, please forgive me in the afterlife, sir. But when you're chonky, your shadow's chonky. And Palmer is, when he's not, obviously, when you don't see him in the layers, he's a skinny man.
Mm-hmm.
So that shadow casts a little more as someone thinner.
Right.
It's like it is no offense. But yeah, especially like Norris also wears those big, heavy sweaters, where Palmer's more that I'll layer on. So, the shadow would have cast a bit larger.
Yeah. And there are people who do a really in-depth analysis on some YouTube videos I've seen where they're they're literally putting the silhouette of Norris up into the shadow and that kind of stuff. And to me, it just doesn't work.
Well, we're still on your what you get in context of the movie,
right?
And that's what we're just saying is that the size wise, it does read a bit more Palmer.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna get to all the details in just a moment. So
but however, contextually speaking, I always believed it to be Palmer. Now, if you wanted to believe it to be Norris, it's interchangeable essentially. It could work. The movie works well either way. So yeah, in context, that's how I believe it to be Palmer. I can't see it any other way, honestly, based on how I feel.
The only other in context thing you would get is they always say it rips through your clothes.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the evening, I think, or something. It doesn't appear that Palmer has that vest and everything on that he's wearing. So a lot of them have probably a buttload of long johns. And back in the 80s, long johns came in but one color, white.
Yeah.
We didn't have cute feety pajamas or nothing.
No, none of the designer colors or any of that kind of stuff.
They were utilitarian, and you got white.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon me. And Norris always wears that, fisherman style, so a big heavy duty fisherman sweater. So the fact that he's still wearing that sweater later, that's why you think he's probably not the shadow on the wall, and he probably did not get assimilated the usual way of being attacked from outside in.
Right.
Because he still has that sweater. It's and I'll tell you, those sweaters are expensive. So he's not having multiples of those.
No, I guess not.
No.
All right. Now, we're going to move on to what the filmmakers intended the audience to know when it comes to this shadow on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Go to Stuart Cohen's blog, The Original Fan, on Blogspot. And he has a detailed description of what he meant to have there, and it'll be up on screen.
Well, and Stuart took meticulous notes while shooting.
Mm-hmm.
That's how some people say, oh, well, he's just remembering it different because it's 30...
At the time the blog came out was roughly 30 years later.
No, he has scripts and notes and diaries. He took very meticulous notes, especially on this movie, of when decisions were made and how things were done. So now he's not remembering things differently or having that Mandela effect. He's going through his notes.
This movie was his baby, so obviously he's going to take meticulous notes on how everything's going that he experienced.
It's his baby and then John Carpenter's foster child.
All right, so yes, in the things, Palmer was the intended person to be that shadow.
Mm-hmm.
They tried with David Clennon, but they said the silhouette was too distinct and would be obvious to the audience, and they didn't want it to be obvious. As we all know, there's a lot of ambiguity in this movie. And they even tried to diffuse it and maybe fuzz it out a little bit, and they said no, it was just still too obvious. And that's where, as a lot of people know, Dick Warlock was brought in to be the actual person who's casting the shadow on the wall. He's the stuntman in the movie. He's been a stuntman for a long time up to this point, and since.
A lot of times he's Kurt Russell's go-to stuntman. Yeah, he's been with Kurt. He goes with Kurt Russell a lot.
Mm-hmm. So that is it. That is, like I said, it's not much of a discussion because it's definitive evidence, proof. That shadow on the wall is Palmer. No, beyond a shadow of a doubt. Pardon the pun.
Yeah, it's meant to be Palmer, and yet they still wanted to leave it a little. And this is where we say, if you still want to believe it's Norris, fine, because they had a totally different person do it, so it wasn't so obvious.
Right, and if you want to believe it's Norris, fine. Like I said, no, that's how you want to believe it, and the movie still works. It works perfectly fine whether it's Norris or Palmer. So,
but if you want to go by what the movie makers intended,
then it's Palmer. So there you have it. Now, as far as some extras go, the sequence for the dog going through the hallway is meant to be a lot longer. It was a very long process of, again, this is from Stuart Cohen's blog and his notes. It was a long process of him going through the rooms, through the whole base, looking around. And he said it was beautifully shot, but it ended up on the cutting room floor because they needed to tighten it up for pacing purposes. And according to the script, the dog was supposed to go in, and the person is supposed to turn, and you're supposed to hear a faint "hello, boy," and then the door slams shut. Then the script also says maybe there was evidence of like a noise over like a scuffle or something, and then I'm assuming the audience will be, well, what could have happened? And
what do you think happened?
So that's some little behind the scenes tidbits for that. Now, my personal experience, like I've said many times before, I watched this as a kid. I've seen it so many times long before the internet came out, and I watched a lot of it on VHS, on the tube television, which is square.
Or what do they call it? The bastardized version when it was on TV?
Yeah, well,
it was just broadcast television.
Yeah, that was a weird one.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll get to that in another episode. But because the TV screen was square and obviously the movie is a big rectangle, what they do is called either crop it or a pan and scan, where it's cropped, but the scan kind of follows the action as the movie goes along.
Yeah, we saw that the other day. We were watching Starman. Because we wanted to get a bit more of John Carpenter in our belts.
And how he tells a story.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, it's not a modernized version where they go back to the original.
The whole square or rectangular format.
Right, with or without letterboxing. But yeah, they were doing the pan and scan, and honestly, it's slightly disorienting when they do that, because you're like, whoa.
As a kid, I never made any notice of it, but then when you're watching as an adult, knowing what goes on, it's like, yeah, it is a bit disorienting.
Because you're like, ooh, that kind of moved funny, but that's what they're doing, is trying to fit it all into a small screen.
So because the picture was cropped, I never see the dog go into the doorway, because that part of the doorway is cut off. You don't see it. So to me, it always looked like the dog just walked by, and the guy's just going, huh? What was that? It wasn't until I started watching it on DVD years later that it turns out, oh, he actually went into the room. And like I said, again, it makes a lot more sense seeing it that way instead of, the cropped version where it's like, okay, the dog just went by. It still kind of works, but it works better knowing him goes into the room.
Why not say the dog went by, and then why does the shadow turn? It was like, because he walked by the hallway. It's like, no, it enters the room.
So that's it we have for the shadow on the wall. It's Palmer. So we're going to
Palmer, but it works either way. But yeah,
says everybody has their own beliefs. Stick to it. If you want to have a nice discussion in the comments below, go for it.
If you don't have a nice discussion,
right? There's no reason to be nasty. There's no reason to be rude. Just agree to disagree when it comes down to it, because some people you will not be able to budge.
Right.
So up next, how did Blair get infected?
Now we're going to talk about Blair when he gets assimilated and his little freak out. This is the reason I am off to the side. I have watched my husband over the years, and he can get a bit heated about this, so I'm over here to wave off camera and make faces to keep him under control.
Yeah,
I'll kick him under the table if I have to.
This was a very hotly, a lot of them were, but this especially was a very hotly debated topic on the discussion forums at Outpost 31 before it got closed out.
Like, to the point where anytime somebody brought up the pencil, everybody's like, take it away, Pete.
All right, so in context, what happened to Blair? You don't really see much of him at first in the movie. The Norwegians show up. He's they cause their mess. He says, we got to report this mess. Then you don't see much of him. And then they go to the Norwegian camp. They come back. They bring Split Face and he says, do the autopsy. There's a little bit of dialogue. He does the autopsy. Then at night, the kennel attack happens. You barely see him. He's there. Blink and you'll miss it, and he's there. But then...
When does he talk to Windows? You mean you haven't gotten a hold of anybody?
Yeah, that's what he says. We got to report this mess.
That's a bad Wilford Brimley. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's this. We got to get a hold of somebody, anybody. We got to report this mess. Yeah.
Too much estrogen, not enough, not enough cowboy.
So, and then when it comes to the kennel scene, that happens, and then he does and that's where you start getting to see him more, where he's describing the creature. It tried to digest him, and in the process shape its own cells to imitate them, and hence when he's starting to say, all right, there's something's up. And then in context of the movie, when was he assimilated? The main point of contention is when he had his crack up in the radio room where he sabotaged the helicopter, sabotaged the tractors. That was was he human then? That's where a lot of people focus on.
In the movie context, yeah. Just before that is the pencil, where a lot of people try to say he taps the burnt creature with a pencil.
Right.
No.
No, like I said, he does not. Like I said, this is where she's trying to keep me in check because I'm like, he doesn't touch it. No. In honestly, if you look closely, he doesn't touch the pencil to the thing.
It gets close.
It gets very close and it hovers over top because he's a biologist. He's not going to touch some icky stuff and then stuck it to his mouth. So, no, that's not how he was assimilated. So leading up to that point, when he's doing the simulation on the computer.
Hang on. You're still doing in movie context, correct?
Right.
Okay, I don't want you to give stuff away yet.
Right. So we see him.
I had this feeling you were going to start dropping some tea, and it's like, whoa, don't spill it yet.
No. No, you see him up to that point. You've always seen him in that yellow shirt. It almost looks like a chamois shirt.
Yeah.
You see him in that yellow shirt. Now, when he's doing
suspenders,
right?
Yeah.
Or I remember a couple of British guys. They call them bracers.
Yeah. We live amongst the Amish. They're suspenders.
So he's doing that computer simulation, and he's watching the cells, take over the other cells, and he's in that yellow shirt, and then he's like, no. And then it's like, he does the thing. It's like 27,000 hours from first contact is when the Earth will be completely infected. The high probability of someone being affected is 75%. And he's like, no, not on my watch. He grabs the gun, fade to black. Honestly, I believe that is where the last time you see him human, because that's the last time you see him wearing that yellow shirt. So, okay. He's gone for a little while. I mean, Fuchs talks about him, that he's missing. He won't answer the door. So the next time you see him, what is he doing? He's running from the helicopter after busting up the control panel. Then he's in the radio room, busting up the whole joint. You can clearly see the attacked windows and hit him in the head to knock him out and get him out of the way.
Yeah.
And he's not wearing that yellow shirt. He's got the long johns, like you said. It's just that same standard color.
He's got the long johns, and he still has suspenders. I mean, you probably have several pair.
Clothing change could be an indicator.
It's subtle.
That he's a thing at this point.
And this goes along with John Carpenter's storytelling. Is he gives you clues to everything. Maybe they're subtle, maybe they're obvious, but he, where Blair may have said, "Watch Clark," is watch your characters, watch. What do they always do, and now they suddenly changed. His clues are there.
And as you said, Carpenter has a particular storytelling technique, and it's a visual medium, so it doesn't have to sit there and outright tell you. It's a very subtle way of showing you.
He uses it all. He uses the visual, the sound, and ambient sound and dialogue.
Yes. Another indicator maybe. They come in, he shoots up the place, and they come in, he's whacks the axe onto the table, and he's throwing Mac over that way, he's throwing Gary over that way.
There's several of them pushing that table against him. He pushes them back.
Right. So, that's a decent amount of strength for a human being. And he, like I said, he's in his 50s. He's pudgy. He's not exactly an athlete, but he's throwing these guys around. I mean, they eventually do subdue him, but
With a couple of meat slap punches.
Those 18 punch sound effects. So they, there's a lot of strength there. I mean, yeah, you could say that he's in psychosis or he's pumped on adrenaline, but still, that seems like a lot of strength for just an average biologist guy, a scientist. So again, another indicator that he may be not human anymore.
More human than human.
Right. And then, the next day you see them get him locked up in the shed. And for a lot of people, this is where, and I'm going to tell you right now, I believe this for a very long time, that Blair was human up to this point. And they literally condemned him to death.
Which is a possibility, when you're just looking at the movie context, it is a possibility. Right. Because him freaking out as a human and saying, no, I don't want this thing to leave. We're not going to call in McMurdo or anybody to get help.
Right.
That makes sense. Him being a creature makes sense. They both make sense. That's the beauty of Bill Lancaster. I'm going to call him Bart. Bill Lancaster's writing and John Carpenter's direction is that it works multiple ways.
Right. So if you think he was human at that crack up, they condemned him to die, putting him in the shed all alone.
Yeah, putting him alone to be attacked.
Because he was genuinely trying to protect the Earth.
Yeah.
Because you literally hear him screaming this. If one cell gets out, it could take over.
That thing didn't want to be a dog. It wants to be us.
Right. Now, you look at it from the other perspective. If he's a thing, again, it's a ruse. He is, again, isolating them on purpose, but so it can do its nefarious deeds and take over everybody else there. It's strategy. It's, to isolate the group of men so it can eventually affect them one by one. But
then also separate him from the other possible one or two things that are already there. Right. So it's like divide and conquer.
Because we've already established that Palmer's most likely a thing at this point.
Right.
Now, later in the movie, it's revealed that he's definitely a thing at this point at the end, when they discover that he dug his little hidey hole.
Yeah.
And he built the escape ship. Some people believe he was trying to get back into space. No, I honestly think he was just trying to get someplace populated.
That ship is tiny enough. All he was trying to do was just get to like McMurdo, which is
right.
I don't
know how far it was away, considering it's not it's not Outpost 31's fictional. It's not a real place.
Yeah, but they weren't. Yeah, he was just trying to get to or even whatever country had a settlement near. He was just trying to get to the nearest thing.
So contextually speaking, I do believe that yellow shirt is an indicator that he's had turned into a thing. Or if you do believe that he was human and locked up and then he became a victim then, because clearly he's a thing later on. So again, either way, contextually speaking, when you just look at the movie, it works. For me, I believe it was Blair earlier on simply because it gave him more time to dig that tunnel, build that ship, gather all the pieces for it.
He would have had to been, and we already told you the timeline. So he gets out there early on day 3.
Right, yeah.
He's got, that thing can make how many legs? Scoopy hands or whatever to dig.
Right. Two whole days pass by just by a mention of the storm hitting for 48 hours. 48 hours for a thing that doesn't need sleep. That's a lot of time.
Probably 3 to 4. He's getting like 3 almost into 4 days doing all that.
So that's how I believe he was a thing at the crack up, because it gave him so much time to do all of that.
And we don't know what the schematics of the place was. Was there something down there already and he was just digging into it?
It could be, because there's already underground parts of the other part of the camp. So
yeah, when they see where
other people have theorized that maybe it was a tunnel down into a place that existed already and he just took advantage of it.
Yeah, because you see where the generator is that's underground. So it's like he could have just, the only thing he had to dig was just a way into that from here.
Right. Later on in the movie, you actually do see some tunnels going out. You never know. It could be.
Well, he needed the bed tunnel, the bathroom tunnel. Kind of like a groundhog.
All right. So contextually speaking.
That's that.
That's where we stand.
But it was not the pencil. Like you're keeping calm on that.
Yes.
Even if you pause the video, VHS video years ago. Because you couldn't pause live TV, but you could pause the video. Just ask the video store when people used to watch, was it Fast Times at Ridgemont High, how that one part was worn out because they kept pausing and rewinding. He gets close, but he doesn't. He wasn't assimilated that way. But I mean, if you want to believe it,
right.
But as you said, as a biologist, he would know not to
stick something and touch it to his lip. But again, you want to believe what you want to believe, go for it. And you want to have a nice discussion down below, a nice, proper discussion, no nastiness, no rudeness, no name calling, no foul language, a nice, pleasant discussion, arguing back and forth.
Have a nice agree to disagree kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Be open-minded.
All about a movie we love so much. Now,
we're all here because we love the thing. Mm-hmm. But we're not even trying to push our opinions. We're just trying to let you know what you noticed. Galahad has a thing about digging, so if you hear scratching right now, he's digging his little place to lay down. I'm sorry. We're all here because we love the thing. Everybody has their opinion. We're helping you understand what you could basically glean and on what the filmmakers mean. We're really trying to give the filmmakers their say. Mm-hmm. And then also give you your room for your opinions and ideas.
Mm-hmm. So now, moving on to what the filmmakers say as far as what happened to Blair. Again, we're referencing Mr. Cohen's blog. This was his baby. And what he says is, there's a section in the blog about how Blair was cast. And it says, and they wanted it to be Blair was assimilated very early and off screen.
Essentially, they were originally planning for him to be first.
Yes. Not the pencil.
Not the pencil, just off screen. Mm-hmm. And seriously off screen.
Right. And what it is, he details from his notes that the crack up in the radio room was a ruse. It was a way of getting himself isolated so it could go and build the escape craft. And this is very much in keeping with the original novella Who Goes There, where Blair does the same thing. He has this nervous breakdown. They isolate him in the shed, and it's even more detailed in the novella where he's like literally pushing stuff against the door to keep people out. I mean, really playing it up. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the story, just like in this, they come back and he is working on, it's not a ship, it's some kind of anti-gravity device. But again, working on a way of escape. And so that's what they say. And when you look at the blog, he actually has a notation in there that says they're not 100% sure that they were very clear when it came to making sure that they felt that letting the audience know that Blair was in fact assimilated early on. And he even says they added extra dialogue because when you see them discovering the ship, you actually hear McCready say he's been busy here all by himself. That's ADR because you look at his face real closely. It's in a distance, but you look at his face real close. He's not speaking.
No.
It's added in later. Again, Blair's been busy here all by himself. An indicator. So that he was a thing all along.
Yeah, the moment he got in and he mm-hmm. heard them walk away, he got started.
He got to work.
But Cohen's blog does say that when he's watching the computer simulation, because that was something that was added later.
Well, his commentary on the movie.
Yeah, that too. That Blair is human there.
Yes.
And then by the time he has the freak out, mm-hmm. he's a thing.
A thing.
So it does take place in a very mm-hmm. small spot.
But basically in the commentary, when you watch his commentary on the Blu-ray, is that he meant for Blair to be assimilated first. And he honestly agreed, and he kind of agrees that when you see Blair doing the simulation, it's confusing because timeline-wise, he felt that Blair was a thing at this point, mm-hmm. very early on. But this is confusing because it looks like Blair is doing a simulation, and it's like, well, the thing wouldn't do this. He wouldn't do a simulation on itself. So it can get kind of confusing. And so, yeah, their intention is there that Blair was assimilated early on. But all in all, Blair was assimilated and he was a thing at the time of the crack up in the radio room.
But he was not. He was still human while he was looking at the computer.
Yes.
Because that was one of those little bridge moments that mm-hmm. John Carpenter wrote in later when he was going through everything.
Yes.
When he had done the rough cut and then said, I need to do this. Mm-hmm. Because they were trying to say, we need to show how this thing changes into a person. Because we need to prove it's not just taking over your mind and your body. No, it's like you and I talk about. It's kind of essentially like consuming you and then replicating and becoming.
And that's what they wanted to detail, is that it's not like a parasite, a host living in your brain or anything.
Right.
It is basically devouring your body,
just keeping all your knowledge.
Maintaining your memories, scanning your DNA, and creating an entire copy of you out of thing cells. So it's not a human being. It's not like someone under some kind of influence and your consciousness is in the back. No, you're gone, and this is an imposter.
And that is why he did that simulation. That is why they did the way Bennings. What is, that's my friend. No, it was looking like your friend.
As he said, Max said, if it had more time, it would have looked and acted and sounded just like Bennings.
Right. So they put those in on purpose to kind of help give you some more clarity and define what it's doing. We all have our opinions, like we said. I was so staunch that Blair is human because he's a biologist and he's like, no, this thing is not getting out. Da, da, da. And then Pete goes, you know what Stewart says on his blog? Stewart says he's a thing. I got pissed. Mr. Cohen, I am so sorry. I was like, no, he's wrong. There's no way. It doesn't work. It can't work. Blah, 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 blah. And Pete goes, let's watch the movie. Just give it this one shot. One try, this one shot. Just watch it once. But let your mind be open and think Blair is a creature at that time. I mean, I literally sat there with my arms folded and a pissy look on my face like, well, fine, we're going to do this, and we're watching it. And I did. I let myself just see it a different way. And not being corny, not being hokey, not trying to play up to anybody. I got chills because when you hear what Blair is saying and see what Blair is doing, and I got a side note is I'm sure he had a blast. Just go ahead, take this axe and bust some shit up.
This is all random junk anyway. Go ahead and smash it to hell.
Bust this shit up, have some fun. It becomes very chilling. It is so sinister. It is so devious and manipulative and so evil that it was able to say that and do that and play all that off to get isolated like that. It does, when you view it that way, just let yourself do it. Let yourself accept it. You're like, ooh, crap. So yeah, just give it a try. And if he's, no, I'm going to say he's human. That's fine. Because they do leave it relatively ambiguous. So it can work either way. This is kind of like Schrodinger's movie, where it's both. It's either option.
Yeah, he can be human or a thing at this. Either way, and it works either way. Again, the story does not suffer regardless of how you want to view it.
And this is why we're explaining this in different blocks, because what you glean from the movie is what you glean. You're not sitting there in 82 or you're now watching. I mean, yeah, kind of. You can sit there watching the movie and read Stewart's blog while you're doing it.
Or go on the IMDb trivia or whatever. Yeah.
But back then, you didn't.
You had nothing.
So they meant it to be ambiguous for a reason, because it works either way. But yeah, let yourself, if you are, again, no, Blair's totally human, there's no way it works. Just let yourself believe it, if not once. And you'll be like, oh shit.
Because I was just like you. I remember going on the forums and someone said, Stuart Cohen, the producer, he's got a blog up and then you got to check it out. And it said Blair was a thing at that time. And up to that point, I was like you.
Throw a toddler temper tantrum, for frig's sake.
I would argue until I'm blue in the face that he was human trying to protect the earth. And like you said, look at it from that point of view, and it makes holy crap kind of sense. Like the level of malevolence and manipulation that is going on, scare the crap out of these guys and get them to do what he wants them to do, or it wants them to do.
Yeah, basically dividing and conquering, and he's like, you stay here and learn and assimilate them. I'm going to go out and find a way to get the frig to the next settlement and do the same thing. Now, when you go into all the extras, so that's what the filmmakers mean. Now, when you go into the extras, we're going to talk about extended stuff about, 2011 thing. So when you think, okay, Blair's having that freak out, so he is a creature. And if you watch the 2011s, like clearly it's learning, it's adapting, it's growing. And that, again, will make it more sinister. But some of the other extras that you can, here's a little, or we're going to break some, not break some ice, but we're kind of like, break the tension a little bit here.
Yeah, because somebody pointed out a long time ago, when Max sees Blair run off and then he goes and checks the helicopter, he hears a gunshot. Then hear him start running down the hallway. You literally hear Blair in there going, no! Like this full on Homer Simpson. No! And it was just, when someone pointed out, I was like, oh my God, it is just so freaking funny. Like in the middle of it, it's just to hear this, no! And I can't unhear it now.
Yeah.
You watch the movie, you can't unhear it. It makes you giggle every single time now.
Because Mac's so serious, boots clicking down the hallway, and you just hear, oh.
So that's a little tidbit to make you smile.
Well, yeah, and the other part of when we were talking about what you glean from it is like, oh, it seems like Blair has a lot of human, superhuman strength.
Mm-hmm.
We talked to Joel Polis about this. He's like, no, that wasn't part of the scene or anything. Wilford Brimley, he's a cowboy.
Mm-hmm.
He really was that strong. He
a rough and tumble cowboy, yeah.
He was, honest to goodness, tossing them around. And even in the autopsy scenes, because he had, you had to deal with things out. Like you
out in the ranch or the wilderness, whatever.
I'm trying to find a nice way to say it. If an animal gets sick and you're out in the middle of nowhere, you have to deal with it.
Yeah.
So they were actual organs that they were using from the butcher shop when he was dissecting, and they were like, "Yeah, I'm okay with it." Whatever. Because even Kurt Russell talked about that in an interview. He's like, "Oh yeah," because Wilford was such an old cowboy. He's just, "Nah, I got this." It was nothing for him.
Yeah.
So yeah, him throwing people around, that was legit.
Yeah, because as Joel said, he really is that strong.
Yeah, we'll show you the clip.
And we actually see Fuchs kind of fall backwards a little bit. I was wondering what happened there, if you remember.
I do remember. I fell back a little bit.
Was that scripted or like, oops?
No, it was like, once again, like me slipping and falling on my butt. I got pushed back and I went back, Wilford's a tough guy, man. Let me tell you. He was he was in his late 40s, I think, or maybe, and he was a wrangler and a real cowboy.
Yeah.
And, he could be tough.
All right. Another thing is a lot of people are aware that Donald Pleasence was in line to be cast as Blair. And obviously, a lot of people know that Donald Pleasence was Dr. Loomis in Halloween, and I don't remember the actual character name, but he played the President of the United States in Escape from New York.
And I think he was also in aside from John Carpenter films, he'd been in a lot of stuff, including like James Bond. He was Blofeld and things. So yeah, he was a bit recognizable.
Right. And so Cohen, again, in his blog, refers to his notes saying that he was too recognizable, as that because he was popular with horror fans because of Halloween, that when the character is meant to go missing for a while, they would notice that Donald Pleasence was missing. Being in his 50s, Wilford Brimley was still relatively new to being a movie actor. This was his actual second movie. His first movie was actually not even out in theaters yet.
He'd done a lot of behind the scenes things.
Yeah.
Or was extras.
No,
Cowboy,
he was Cowboy
number 5.
Yeah, in the background, yeah. He was the everyman face. And so when he disappeared, audiences weren't supposed to notice. And that's why Donald Pleasence wasn't cast. I've seen a number of YouTubers mention that, there was some kind of scheduling conflict, saying that Donald Pleasence was like a lock, but there was a problem with the schedule and he didn't do it. No. I have yet to find any actual evidence of this. Stuart Cohen, I've been in contact with him, he never said this. And I've never found anything like it might be something on IMDb trivia that somebody put there without any real basis in fact, because like I said, Cohen goes to his notes and this is why. Yeah,
it just turns out he's too recognizable because he did have to talk. I think we mentioned this earlier. He did have to talk John Carpenter out of a few. It's like he wanted to use his core group because he knew them and whatever. And he's like, you keep using the same people. I know, it's too obvious. You gotta.
This is a big studio film. You have a lot of access to a lot of resources instead of just doing indie stuff.
And he's like, fine, but I want Kurt Russell.
So that is wrapping it up for when Blair is assimilated. Now, again, this is a safe place for a good, honest argument and discussion. Just don't be rude. Don't be nasty.
Yeah, let's be respectful.
People have strong opinions. Let bygones be bygones. But comment below. Let's have a good discussion. Do you agree with us in our analysis? Do you have anything different to say?
Will you be willing to watch with an open mind now?
Because I've experienced the movie both ways, and I honestly think, yes, it makes a lot more sense, and it's a bit scarier knowing that he's a thing at that point. Let us know what you think.
I think so.
I told Wilford Brimley that I'd gone and taken a biology course, and he looked at me and he went, "What for?" And I said, "Well, Wilfred, I want to, I want to know more about what the guys." He said, "This movie's about rubber and steam." That's what Wilfred said to me. Here I'm doing a method acting shit, and he's going like, "Forget about it. Just show up." It was really.
The police show up, and they come and confiscate, wads of cash, brass knuckles, mace, the medieval kind.
Oh, wow.
And a bunch of other contraband. I'm telling you, that's the last time I do a fire safety talk at the kindergarten. I'm telling you, it's just the worst.
Yeah, kids are crazy. Oh,
we're back.
We're back. Hi.
All right, so the next segment is Who Got to the Blood? It is another hotly debated topic. And so we're going to go, again, in context of the movie itself, without any additional information. Who got to the blood? Now, it's 2 to 3 possibilities depending on who you believe was assimilated when. So, first off, it could be Blair. He's sabotaging helicopters or tractors, unfortunately killing the dogs, busting the radio. He could have done the blood at that time.
Well, I think, may I just do an aside, because we're talking about in context of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Blair's always saying, watch Clark, watch Clark. No, literally, watch Clark.
Yes.
When they said he got to the dogs,
mm-hmm.
when Blair's having his freak out, he runs down, he's in a kennel all by himself.
Right.
And you see heartbreak and then rage.
Yeah, I mean, he's devastated.
He's like, I'm going to go kill Blair, screw this.
Mm-hmm.
If he was a creature, why, being alone, would he make that face?
Again, and other people have pointed this out as well. That, again, no words. There's no dialogue, nothing, but it shows you Clark was a red herring. He was human because you see the look on his face and the sheer brokenness of him.
Mm-hmm.
That is not a thing acting like it. There's no reason to. There's nobody around. There's no reason to put on a show. Clark was human. And obviously it's revealed later that he was. So, again, a visual indicator that there was a red herring. Now, the next person on the list is Palmer.
Is Bismarck a herring?
I don't know. Is he? Palmer. If you look closely during Blair's crack up, Palmer is not there. You'll see a couple stills when we post it up on the video here. Who's in the radio room and who's outside in the hallway. There are 2 people missing, Palmer and Knowles. Well, obviously we know Knowles is not a thing.
Well, once you get to the end. I mean, in context of the movie, at that point, you don't know.
You don't know. But, like I said, later on we know that Palmer was revealed to be a thing. So, again, he's missing during this time. The third possibility is very unlikely, and nobody has really ever said this, but I just want to throw it out there. If you believe Norris is a thing at this time, it's possibly him, but when Bennings is revealed to have been attacked and turned into a thing, he's there when they burn it up. He's there when they burn all the other specimens. He's there in the hallway during the crack up. So, again, a possibility maybe, but not very likely, honestly. And for us, we don't believe he's to be a thing at this point. So,
was it something Blair did while, before going out and busting up all the equipment?
Right. I mean, he's sabotaging everything else, so why not?
And
he being a biologist, he would kind of know something like that.
As someone who has had leaks in their fridge, I'm not going to say a ton, but I remember it happening a few times as a kid in the 80s with 80s fridges.
Mm-hmm.
And even now, every once in a while stuff leaks. It does not leak out instantaneously. No. There's a good seal. There's a good seal all the way around your fridge. There should be, let's just say.
Yeah.
So when something leaks and it hits that rubber gasket, it does take a while to leak out and leak through. So, because I'd always...
And it would be very slow to begin with, wouldn't it, really?
Well, you're a nurse. You know how thick cold blood is anyway. For it to have leaked out, so to say, well, time-wise it doesn't work. It could, and especially if you've got it locked shut, so, locks kind of pull it maybe a little bit tighter.
Right, especially if it's a hasp over the thing and it kind of pulls, like you said, pulls it tighter to keep it sealed.
Yeah, so if you've ever had a leak in the fridge and you're like, that was fine last night when I put it in there, why is it like a day later it's leaking out? Like, nah.
The other facet of this is obviously they're talking about access to the blood was the key to the lock. How did the key get into the hands of whomever or whatever to sabotage the blood? When Windows discovers Bennings, you literally hear the keys drop and hit the floor. Could have been picked up by anybody.
And then he takes off and runs. He drops
them and he runs. Yeah, he goes and gets Fuchs and Mac to come back because I swear to God I had a hold of him, and then they chase him outside. The keys are probably still on the floor. Later on, when Blair is having his freak out, eagle-eyed viewers will spot. You'll see the keys on Gary's belt and hooked to his belt. And even Child says it later. Those keys rings is always attached to your belt. How can anybody lift it off of you? So the keys were not in play at that time. So if Palmer's missing doing the blood, how could he have done it?
Well, and being a mechanic, this is just in movie context. Being a mechanic, did he make a copy of the key? Is he able to make some kind of skeleton key? Can you just do something to jimmy the lock?
Right. He says, there's a lot of technical know-how, or being a creature of outer space, who knows what kind of technical know-how, and a simple padlock might be
that's nothing.
Not difficult at all to manipulate in some fashion.
Right. But I know some people who are mechanics will tell you, it's like, yeah, unlocking cars is a lot. You learn all different ways to undo a lock, because it's one of the biggest things people do is, they
lock themselves out.
Yeah, the keys are right there. I can see them. Yeah. Or even you when you were a firefighter, that's the one thing that happens.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I don't think you got that many calls.
No, they kind of called the police, or there's a lot of roadside assistance services.
AAA and such.
As volunteers, I don't know if that was something we even responded to. It's like, call 911. I like myself a car. Tough shit.
Call somebody who cares.
Call AAA. And then later on, you see Blair's locked up in the shed, and then they discuss, okay, we can do the blood test. And Gary literally hands the key to Copper. And then the very next scene, Copper's walking up to it in his flared bell-bottom shoes, as pants, and like I said, it's such a very 80s, late 80s, or early 80s, late 70s kind of attire. It's like you just can't miss it. But there's blood oozing right out of the refrigerator. He says, hey, you guys, somebody got to the blood. He had the key. Now, again, who had access to it? Who could have got to it when? And that is the big mystery here.
Well, even some people say, was it Gary? Was Gary afraid that he was a creature and did it and then just lied about it? Or did any of them?
I hypothesize that self in my head sometimes, where I go back to it every now and then.
It's okay.
Where did Gary do it? I mean, he says, I give you my word, I did not go near the blood. But did he do it because, was he terrified that, well, what if I am? I don't want to be outed. I don't want to die.
Or any of them.
It's a possibility. Now, again, that's not very likely, but it's one of those things you kind of kick around in your head, and it's like, you go back to it every now and then. Is it a possibility?
Whereas you and I were even talking about, the creature could have just made these weird flat finger spikes and wiggled through the door. It literally is an endless possibility about the blood.
Right. And
when you're watching just in the movie context.
Yeah, contextually speaking, you really can't discern who did it, because the keys are in play at a certain point in time, but that happens the night before.
Yeah.
The keys are in Gary's possession or Copper's possession later, and then when you look at the fridge, like you said, it takes time for it to leak out, but it couldn't have been from last night. It was all leaking out.
Yeah, it can. I mean,
what if somebody noticed it if it was on the floor? You don't know.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It wouldn't have leaked out for hours. It takes a while to leak through that seal and gasket on a fridge. My favorite thing about that scene is Copper, when he's like,
yes.
He's like, well, you take the keys from me all the time, and when I do, I give it right back to you, bitch. Literally, that look he gives is just the bitchiest look. And now what?
Ball's in your court, Bub. Now defend that.
I love it. Oh.
So yeah, there is a lot of time between when the keys are up for grabs, so to speak, and then the discovery of the blood being sabotaged. And so when you try to look into the context, it's kind of it really doesn't fit. Because there's, like I said, anybody could have gotten to it, but this is the night before, and so it can be a bit confusing. But like I said, it's Blair was sabotaging everything else, and he was not visible. He could have done it. Palmer was not around during the crack up in the radio room. He could have done it. Those are the two most likely candidates. And they also were both revealed to be things later in the movie. So it's basically anybody's guess. And like we said, could the creature have done it without the keys? I see its possibility.
When it comes to who got to the blood, there in movie context, it is literally endless possibility. I mean, you could just let your imagination go, and you're all right and you're all wrong at the same time, and it just doesn't matter. Yeah. What the creators of the movie meant, you're gonna have to cut that little snippet out.
Oh yeah.
What the creators of the movie actually meant, we're gonna get to that in just a second. I just want to bring up this scene specifically gets into John Carpenter's storytelling. Where in this movie, aside from you being a little fly on the wall with, like we discussed, the shadow scene, and then basically looking over Blair's shoulder as he's watching the simulation, the rest of the movie, you are the 13th crew member.
Basically, that's how it makes you feel almost.
Because you are eye level with everybody else, and you are on the same, except for those two little earlier things, where you're essentially a fly on the wall, you really are at the same knowledge levels that you know what they know, and you do not know anything extra. Because even that, I mean, the way they did the shadow, you don't have the door closed in the scuffle.
No.
So the dog could have just gone in and gone out. You know, you don't know. It's just leading you to be more suspicious because they are trying to build paranoia and tension and fear and anxiety. But the blood test scene is really where you get sucked in the most, and you feel like, yeah, I'm them. I'm there with them. They're making me to be that 13th crew member or whatever. Crew member.
Yeah.
And that you have all their knowledge, and that's it. You have nothing extra, and that's what you have to go on. So you're thinking what they're thinking.
Yeah. And it's like you're not omniscient. You don't know things that they don't know. You just know what they know, and that's it.
Right.
And that's what the filmmakers intended. Is this whole thing is meant to be unknown. They actually have no idea who got to the blood because they never concerned themselves with it. Just one of the things got it, and that's it. This is what the filmmakers intended. It's just, and that's what it is. It's meant to be unknown and unresolved, and that's it. You're not supposed to know, and unfortunately, the filmmakers aren't going to tell you because they don't know either.
Well, because it's not like Bill Lancaster said, well, I intended it to be so-and-so, but I'm just leaving it ambiguous. No. I'm just going to leave it where, you know, it would fit if.
Right.
No, he left it where it all fits. It all doesn't. And so it wasn't one of those things where it's like, yeah, in the back of my mind, I assumed it was always so-and-so, but I left it out anyway. No, they purposely wrote that scene, never intending it to actually have an answer.
No character will ever be revealed to have done the blood. So that's the way it is. So it's just left up to us, the fans, with our hypothesis and conjecture. Again, let's have a really nice discussion down below and get into it and see what you guys think. I love listening to the different ideas of how this could have been done. So let's have at it. Again, be nice, don't be nasty, be respectful.
Right, because if the filmmakers did not say, oh, we intended it to be boom.
Right.
And y'all are taking it wrong. No, that's not what's happening. They never intended anything. So we're all right and we're all wrong all at the same time, and it all fits.
Right. And that's
and
it.
When did it happen? Nobody knows precisely when it happened.
You won't ever know. No.
Nope. So and that's the other. Somebody says, I definitively know. No, you don't, because they never filmed that with purpose. Nope.
It was never meant to be. They don't know. It's just it was done. That's it. It's anybody's guess.
It's built. That whole scene is mostly just to build more tension, to suck you in, and to build that paranoia. Now when you hear Mac, nobody knows who to, nobody knows who to trust. Well, that's what Blair says, but Mac is like, nobody knows who was who, and then you see that's the scene where calm, collected Fuchs loses his shit.
Yeah,
we talked to Joel Polis about that.
Right, and yeah, he says, well, Doc thought of the test. Child counters, was that supposed to clear him? And you see Fuchs get angry. He's mild mannered and quiet, and yet he's yelling at one of the more intimidating people in the cast, and he loses it. That's where it is. The breakdown of these characters is like, that's how much mistrust is. He's yelling at someone who could easily bend him in half, and he's like, but he's defending his, a fellow scientist. No, you can't, put this on him.
Yeah, I mean, this guy lives in his head. Hugh Fuchs he's a scientist, but he's human, and the pressure's building because I mean, you remember COVID?
Yeah.
It was nuts out there.
Yeah.
You might be in line with a mask on, and somebody pulls their mask off, and off you go. So it was like that. I mean, that the situation was like that.
Right.
Cut to the fight scene in They Live. I don't mess with Keith David. No.
And for a little bit of extra stuff, a lot of people say, well, how could the creature have known to go for the blood if Copper just thought of the test or just mentions the test just before they discover?
He assimilates Blair, who's a biologist.
Right. Or you can go back to the 2011 movie and use that as canon. It's like, well, they were devising a blood test and they sabotaged the blood test there. So the creature realizes they're going to do that again. These people are smart.
Yeah.
They're going to do that again. So we got to eliminate the possibility.
Yeah.
And again, sabotaging the blood is just a tool to incorporate mistrust and paranoia. And then it leads to the actual infamous blood test scene later on.
Yeah. It's like, all right, well, I'm going to use blood in a different way. It also, it's in the original novella, although you say it's far more complicated. They had a far more complicated idea.
Yes.
But then they wind up just using
how they devise a blood test to get a reaction was extremely complicated. It took days to do this.
It's like that science, no science kind of stuff that people wrote about.
It's like,
early 20th century.
Like I said, it's way too complicated to discuss. But then ultimately they just said, let's just stick a hot wire in the blood and see what happens. And there you go.
And there are, I don't know, do you want to talk about people think that it references AIDS?
Well, some people do believe that this movie is somewhat of an allegory to the AIDS crisis, because you hear the term. There's a lot of things about blood. There's terms of the word infection. You don't know who has this infection. It really isn't. This was made. It came out in 1982 June.
It was made in 81.
The previous year. That's when most of it was shot and made. And the AIDS crisis wasn't even a crisis at this point. In late 1981, they didn't know what was going on. They just knew a lot of healthy young men were dying from some mysterious illness. They didn't know what they knew now.
It's not until the end of 82, long after this has been released, they even called it AIDS.
Right, yeah. September of 1982 when it was officially termed AIDS.
Well, and just simply enough, the original novella has a blood test. They're using blood to identify. They're talking about, I don't know if they use the term infection or whatnot, but they do use a blood test in that. It harkens back to that. And it's a bit of Mandela effect to say, well, it's AIDS crisis. But, and, Tom Waits even feels now that that's what it was. And John Carpenter said in an interview in the 90s, I think, or no, actually recently, he had said, because he said it could, you could look at it as an allegory to even COVID. He's like, you can use it as anything. And Stewart said that whole point was it's that beast inside a man.
Yeah, I directly asked Stuart Cohen, was the AIDS crisis on your mind when you were making this movie? He says, no, it wasn't even on the radar yet.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, for anybody, and I'll have the quote up here on the screen. If anybody, it's just, he referred to it as retroactive nonsense. So, yeah.
They weren't making any point.
No. They just wanted to make a horror movie. Some people even talk about like it was reference to like Cold War stuff. No. They just wanted to make a horror flick. They made a good horror flick.
The only movie John Carpenter admits to having a subtext to was They Live. He says, yeah, it's anti-capitalism.
About consumerism and capitalism, yes.
But when it came to, no, they were just trying to do a scary movie based off of a novella, off of one of their favorite movies. It's like almost someone is saying, don't overthink it. Don't try to because even you and I growing up in the 80s, it's more mid 80s is when AIDS starts getting more known.
No, we were kids in the 80s, and it wasn't until like mid 80s when it really started getting on everybody's radar, where it was a big deal. It took a while.
And yet, John Carpenter will say, take it as an allegory for whatever you wish. Because when it got down to writing the movie, and I believe you talked to Stuart Cohen about this, because he says, the alien is almost superfluous. It is the beast inside the man.
Yes.
That is what they were going for. And the whole movie is about paranoia and what would someone do if.
You can almost say
what kind of nice you seem like the nicest person, but I don't trust you.
You could almost say it's a breakdown of what would happen to society if this were to happen on a grand scale. And you see it in the zombie movies. The biggest threat isn't the zombies. It's the other humans who take advantage of this and
want to take control, take power, have whatever for whatever reason.
It's the same thing here. It's a breakdown of humanity. It's the monster within the man, as he put it. And that's exactly what this movie is about. It's a great horror flick.
Don't ever read the blood scene. It's really just a reference back to the original. And then if you want to take it, the 2011 even uses that as well.
So that's what we have for Who Got to the Blood.
Nobody knows.
No one will ever know.
Nobody knows.
So,
nobody wanted to.
Love to see your discussion down below.
Nobody wanted to care. When I get my keys, I give them right back to you. We're back.
We're back. We're back. And now we're getting into what happened to Fuchs. Again, another mystery, another big point of contention. What happened to him? So what do we see? Mac makes his recording saying the storm's been hitting for 48 hours. Then he goes and visits Fuchs.
He grabs a bottle of something.
I always thought it was acid, and I think he confirms that it was acid. He says we've got to prepare our own meals, eat only out of cans. Max says okay, and then he leaves. Next thing you know, the lights go out. Something comes across him in the hallway, and he goes outside. He discovers Mac's shirt. It says McCready on the back. And then next thing you know, we see Mac going, anybody seen Fuchs? They go to look for him.
I mean, we discussed that in the timeline. This is probably hours worth of stuff happening.
Who knows how much time has elapsed since then.
No, I don't want to jump.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So they go to look for him. They check with Blair. He says it ain't Fuchs. And on the way back, Windows spots something in the snow.
That's what I was going to say. It's quite covered with snow. So obviously it got burned, would have melted snow, and then snow has now refilled. So time has passed.
And that makes perfect sense right there. I never really considered that before.
Just hit me just now.
It's like, yeah, there's a lot of snow around it. Like it's been blowing for a while, covering that up.
Yep.
That makes a lot of sense.
You're welcome.
This is where they this is where they postulate, okay, why did it burn him? Or then Windows says, flare, maybe he tried to burn it. And then Max says, well, maybe he burned himself so it wouldn't get to him. Honestly, that was the last thing said, and that's how I always believed it, that he killed himself to prevent the thing from getting him.
Because you get Fuchs saying who's there inside and then going outside with a flare. And then they find the burned body clearly sometime later.
Right. Contextually speaking, there's nothing there that can indicate what really happened. And even like character-wise, you see Fuchs up to that point, he doesn't seem someone who is in such despair that they would do this to themselves. You don't see them, even like thinking there's a thing and it's like, oh, I got to go get this. You don't see him even acting that way. Like Childs is the more hot-headed, wanting to do something about it. Fuchs is more passive.
Even when people have watched and done their reaction videos, they credit McCready and Fuchs as being the level-headed ones. It's like, look, they're not separating. They're not running off. They're not that idiot running upstairs as the creature's chasing you through the house.
Right.
And yet, here you are, Fuchs. You see him snapping when they discover the blood. You see him grabbing a beaker or something, and then he runs out into the snow because even Joel Polis is like, yeah, Fuchs is kind of losing it at that point. And it is. This is like 6 days of stress, lack of sleep, not eating very healthy.
Or at all, even.
I was going to say, when you actually look around and read some of the stuff at the camp, I don't know what's really in the kitchen, but there's a lot of canned food. And then you see just cases of alcohol and milk duds. So they're clearly, I'm not kidding, there are milk duds. You see boxes of that and Budweiser beer and obviously JB. So you're not eating well, you're not sleeping well, you're running at a constant high level of stress. You're not thinking straight.
I had always believed, again, Fuchs that had burned himself. Now, while doing the research for this and watching videos and everything, I actually came up with a reason why. I had originally thought that he goes out there, he discovers a shirt, and either Blair-Thing or something else comes at him and goes, no, I'm not going to let you do it, and burns himself. But honestly...
There's another option.
Yes, you have to look at it this way. Fuchs goes outside, he discovers the shirt, and clearly we know that Mac is not a thing. Unless you're one of those people who do believe he could be a thing, but that's not here for this discussion.
That's neither here nor there.
All right, so somebody's trying to frame Mac. Why then kill Fuchs? Because what you want him to do is, I found Mac's shirt, I'm going to go and tell the guys, holy shit.
We need to do something. We need to get rid of this man.
Our leader, who we select to help us with this shit, is the bad guy. We got to do something. No, he's dead. The Thing would have no reason to kill him because, well, then it wouldn't work framing him. Because what's the point of drawing him out there to frame Mac only to kill him? Because then the plan wouldn't work. So Fuchs is like, all right, Mac is a thing. We're in the deepest of crap here. I don't want it to get me. I'm done with this. And he burns himself. And it's a very horrible way to go. But I think it's kind of like how one of the Norwegians they discover back at the Norwegian camp does himself in. Slashes his wrist and cuts his throat. Again, desperation. There is, can you imagine the sheer terror of this shape-shifting creature coming to get you, and who knows how painful it is to go through an assimilation.
How painful is it to burn alive? I mean, come on.
But that's the desperation.
Yeah.
This guy slices his own throat. Fuchs burns himself because he feels that is the better alternative than to get assimilated by a thing.
But also there's that despair where he was it seemed like, because you see him and Mac talking earlier in the movie in the vehicle, there was a trust there.
Yes.
And then he discovers Mac's a creature now. It's hopeless. It's like if it can get to him, we're done. So there's more despair there than you can realize.
And then what adds to this hypothesis is they find Fuchs's body, and then Windows goes inside and says, hey, we found him, and then Knowles and Mac go to McCready's shack.
I turn my lights on. Lights off.
Right. And that's where they find the shirt again. There's a little tidbit. If you look very closely, when you see the shirt that Knowles is looking at and the shirt that Fuchs is looking at, they're actually two different shirts, but that's just...
They're meant to be the same.
Yeah, it's just a continuity error. It's okay. Fuchs kills himself, and the creature's like, well, that plan didn't work, so I have to frame Mac again. Let's put it in his shack and put the lights on. And again, it works this time. Because they go there, Knowles finds the shirt, stuffs it in his coat, he cuts him loose, he comes back and says, he's one of them. And the framing works this time, because rather than Knowles saying, screw this, I'm out of here, he says, no, we got to cut him loose and leave him out here, and we got to do something about this. So that's how I feel it goes down, because it makes sense to me. That's how it goes.
But it's also still just an option.
It's a hypothesis. There's no...
In the context of the movie, yeah, you can glean this. People, it tried to kill him. It was like, maybe it's just like, I don't need another biologist. You're useless. It could have just been that simple.
Right.
And then, maybe you thought, oh, I'll leave Mac's thing here and frame Mac. Mac killed Fuchs for whatever reason. And this, let me do this.
Mm-hmm.
Let me lure him out into the mess more.
It all works because there is no definitive answer when you look at the movie itself, because he goes out there, he's gone, and then he's dead, and that's it. So
what the filmmakers meant, they left it ambiguous.
Again, they left it intentionally ambiguous. Now, a lot of you are very aware that this scene for the death of Fuchs was not what was originally intended. And there's a big picture around, and then of where he's.
We discussed it, and we show the one with Joel actually being silly.
Hey. Waving, yeah.
Where he's impaled on a door.
He's impaled by a shovel on a door. They cut that out, and you go watch Volume 1, and they'll explain why. So they had to come up with a new scene, and Cohen asked the production designers, what can we do? And he goes, you can do anything you want. You got 3 hours. So this is the scene they came up with. When we interviewed Joel, he was very grateful for this because he got more screen time as a result of it. So
because he was supposed to have died earlier.
Right, he was supposed to be dead and discovered earlier, and then that was it. No, he got more screen time and that kind of stuff. So he was very grateful for that, and we'll show the clip here.
So the change gave you a bit more screen time as well.
It gave me a lot more screen time.
Oh, very
That's
nice.
cool.
Yeah.
It's like I'll take it. I'll take the change. Yes.
I wasn't arguing.
Even Joel says it's a mystery.
What do you think happened to Fuchs?
The mystery.
He doesn't know.
But it does add to your understanding that they're psychologically breaking down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you're watching the commentary, Dean Cundy, what was in his mind, he said he had read that, and apparently this happened years ago before they started doing psych evals, before sending people to Antarctica to do research. The circadian rhythm would get off. You would get so disoriented of like either all sun or no sun that people would just wander off.
Yeah.
And in his mind, that's what Fuchs did, that it was something where he lost it. It got to him psychologically, and he didn't know what he was doing. Mm-hmm. And he said, because that's a real thing, is that people just fuck off.
Death by misadventure, almost. Like, it wasn't intentional. It was just more or less an accident.
I'm remembering that correctly because I remember somebody talking about that.
If it wasn't Cundy, we know somebody did. I think you're right, though. I think it was Dean Cundy who said that.
Because he says, that's what some people did. And when I was doing research about that, people you're out on an expedition with the other guys and you just go your own way. So it does add credence to what life would be like down there.
Mm-hmm. And so it's again another mystery that will never be solved. Like I said, the filmmakers had no intention of actually creating an answer for this. So that's what we're left with. And again, let's see what you have in your ideas. What happened? I'd love to hear them. Please comment below. Again, be nice.
Well, one of the things I want to mention, we'll talk more about John Carpenter's storytelling, is it's not lazy writing.
I don't think so.
No, it's not lazy writing to leave it ambiguous like that. It's sort of, we grew up with those choose your own adventure books.
I remember them, the Which Way books.
Yeah, yes. So it's kind of like he gives you so much, but then he also leaves more to your imagination. It's like, what would work for you? Because sometimes if he had just said, oh, the creature burned him, it's like, oh, come on, that's lame. Then you would say lazy writing. Because what works for you doesn't work for somebody else. Mm-hmm. So if you leave certain key things that there's too many options and no one's a really good one. Yeah. Let's leave it to their imagination. Mm-hmm. So it's like he gives you enough, but then lets your imagination run wild. What's scary for you may not be scary for me.
And again, as you said, like, the 13th man, you're the other crew member there. You still have no idea.
No. You're not omniscient. You're not given that behind the scenes or anything.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to Fuchs' original death, like I said, everybody sees the picture that he's impaled shovel.
Yeah, it was slasher filmy.
Right. The script actually called for it to be an axe. And in the script, it was Windows was with Palmer and Childs when they went to visit their little pot plants. And the axe was embedded so deep into the wood through his body and deep. They couldn't budge it. So it's meant to be a demonstration of the creature's strength.
Right.
To impale that axe so deep into somebody's body that it can't be budged because it's dug into the wood so bad.
Right.
Again, it's meant to be a demonstration of the sheer strength of this creature. And I found that kind of interesting. I mean, it was cut, but hey, I think this really works with the story. Again, ambiguity, mystery adds to the paranoia, suspense, everything.
Right. It's done on purpose. They're leaving certain things like that open-ended to increase your paranoia, to increase your anxiety as a viewer. It's not done, it's not done they couldn't think of anything better. So no, they're leaving it up to your horrific imagination and what bullshit you could come up with. And like, you have seen some stuff. You've seen people in car accidents, you've seen people in fires, you've seen people in the hospital. What is scary for you? Probably like devastatingly horrific for me. So what's scary for me? You probably go, nothing. So when you leave certain pieces up to your imagination and just show the reaction to it, that's what works.
I never really believed that this movie was like Lovecraftian, but that aspect where I've read, I think, just about everything that H.P. Lovecraft had published, and he does that a lot, where he gives you just enough of a description where you fill in the blanks again with what is scary to you, not. And it's different for every person. Same thing here. I guess you could say that's somewhat Lovecraftian, but I don't think that was intentional. It was just meant to be like, what would make you literally shit your pants so you would so terrified. For me, it's one thing. For you, it's something else. And for the audiences, it's something different. So
for Ron Weasley, just put a spider in it.
Yeah.
It's that simple. For other people, they have pet spiders. So it's that.
Right.
That's why you leave certain things open-ended. And then, because that part of the movie wasn't that scary. For other people, it is. So yeah, it's whatever. Insert horror here, that works for you. Insert why would it happen? Insert it here, and it works. But also, this whole movie is about paranoia. The less you know, the more that paranoia increases in you. And it's like, we watched that one girl kick off her shoes because she was like, oh my gosh, what's happening now? Like, that's, and if John Carpenter or even any of the actors watched her do that, they'll go, bingo, that's what I wanted. I want you to feel it. And that's what they're doing. So, yeah, Fuchs did not decide what and where. And even, I thought it was even interesting that Joel didn't have an opinion. Even he just thought, you don't know.
He just says it's a mystery.
Yeah, he just left it. He didn't even try to make it sensible to him. He just left it.
No, just, that was I like about that. It can be a bit frustrating because, like, I want to know what you think. He's like, no, it's a mystery. It's almost like he's continuing the mystique. It's like, this movie is enduring because, they're not going to say anything. Because if he actually said what he thought, then
it might be a letdown to some people.
Yeah. Or
vindication. I was right.
Or vindication, or people say, well, what he says has now become canon. This is what happened to him. Yeah. Other people would disagree, but I like how he just left it ambiguous as well. So that's what we have for what happened to Fuchs. So let's hear what you got to say about it down below in the comments. Again, be nice. Now we're down to the end of the movie, and probably, I believe, and I think a lot of people would agree, this is probably the most hotly debated portion of the film. Who's who at the end? So, in the context of the movie, where are we? It's whittled down to just Mac in the basement. They have the final confrontation. He throws a stick of dynamite. He gets the hell out of there. The whole camp goes up. And what do you have? Is the creature defeated? You hear that scream at the explosion? Then Mac emerges from the rubble, so to speak. He's got a blanket draped over him, and he's got a bottle of whiskey. Next thing you know, Child shows up. They have their little talk, and they're both trying to say, who's who, and are these one of these guys a thing? They're sizing each other up, but they decide to share a drink and welcome oblivion, I guess.
Sweet death.
and that's it. And then they say, Well, we'll just sit here a while and see what happens. Credits. So.
Boom, boom. Boom, boom.
So, the big question.
I'm sorry, you said people call that the heartbeat.
Yes.
It is.
It's, a lot of times you refer to it. I don't know if Mr. Morricone was going for a heartbeat, but it sounds like it was. Even in Cohen's blog, he refers to it as, the heartbeat thing. Who is who at the end? It's, again, very hotly debated, and essentially there are 4 possibilities. They're both things. Childs is a thing, or Macready is a thing, or at the end they're both human. And we're going to explore...
There is no other option after that.
No. Unless a meteor hits them or something, no, but it's okay. So...
World War III breaks out. There's rockets everywhere. And they just like, well, ain't this about a bitch?
So, of those 4 possibilities, what we're going to do is we're going to take them in the order in which we believe are the least likely to the most likely, in our opinion. So we're going to take a look at that right now. First up, what we believe, and I think a lot of people would agree, the least likeliest of scenarios is that they're both things. Because when you look at the movie, there really is no context for this. It's pretty much all conjecture. But however, if you really want to take a look at it and just listen to the dialogue and hear what they're saying, and you put that in your brain that they're both things, it kind of takes almost this sinister kind of edge to it, where it's like, it's like, are you the only one who made it? That could be one thing talking to the other. Did you get rid of the humans finally? And then he asks him, did you kill it? Is he referring to the human Mac instead of, the thing? It's, like I said, it kind of fits a little bit. When Macready asks, where were you, Childs? That kind of breaks that a little bit of an illusion, because would one thing refer to another thing as the person they're imitating? We don't know.
Yeah, and you get into that whole, how does the creature work? If it splits into others, they now become autonomous?
There's are they able to recognize who's a thing if they've never met before? That's way into the weeds. We're not going to talk about that right now.
I don't even think we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. I really don't want to.
But later on, some of the other, if you're worried about me, it's like, again, one thing to another. I'm not human. It's okay. We're things here.
Wait, because he just says, if you're worried about me or something, it's just it trails off or something.
Well, if you're worried about me, and then Max says, well, if we have any surprises each other, we're not in much shape to do anything about it. Which, again, leans more towards the human half instead of thing, because if they were both things, they would not be exhausted. They would not have those type of human limitations, you would think.
You don't know how it works. You don't know why it appears like, for the most part, it almost consumes someone. So is that energy or fuel?
Right.
You don't know if it is that susceptible to the cold. Maybe it is starting to freeze. It is the least likeliest of scenarios, but it is a possibility that all that stuff happening is the creature, I'm hungry, we've eaten all the humans here. I'm hungry. Yeah. And this cold is getting to me and I'm falling asleep. And slowing down. So, we're going to wait, and cut to Elizabeth Swann yelling, starting, this signifier is over 50 feet high. Someone's going to see it and come rescue us. Which is basically, you assume rescue's probably going to come a lot faster because people are going to be like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, they see if anybody witnessed the explosions, you don't know how soon a rescue could happen.
Yeah.
So, yes. Contextually speaking, there really is very little evidence that they're both things, and I think a lot of people would agree. So we're going to move on to, is Macready a thing? Again, we think this is one of the lesser likely scenarios, but...
Wouldn't it be the more effed up one in a sequel, though?
Technically, yes, because everybody is on board him being the hero all the way through.
Yeah.
So it's to have him be a thing at the end would be whoa, total mind screw. Now, again, we didn't think this is very much likely because we know he's human after the blood test. He defeats the things. Some people have hypothesized that him being a creature would destroy the other. That doesn't make sense to us because they would just work together.
But then again, during Norris's attack, I guess probably also because Windows notices it, Palmer-Thing dimes out the head sneaking away.
Right. And that's where some people point out, it's that's the thing turning on itself. I think it was just keeping up appearances because it was already found out. Norris was already found out to begin with.
I was going to say, Windows saw it first, really, and so McCready was right there. So, yeah.
So for Mac to have been assimilated, there's a very small window of opportunity. If you're one of those people who does believe he was human all the way up until FU2 and then throws the thing and gets the hell out of there, when he reemerges in the rubble, that's the time span right there. That's pretty much the only time he could have been assimilated.
Well, no, I thought it would be like interesting if they were forced. Well, okay, we're only talking about in movie context.
Right.
Yeah, the only thing that also would have worked would have been he says "fu2" because the ball creature comes at him.
Mm-hmm.
He says "fu2", throws his stick, turns to leave, and there's another it broke off a piece of itself, and didn't put all its eggs in one basket, and he goes to turn to leave and just gets gotten right there.
Well, right, that's what I'm saying is that he throws a stick of dynamite and the whole thing blows up, and you don't see him again until he reemerges, and clearly some time has passed. Because when he's running out of there, he has nothing with him except what he's wearing. And then you see him again, he has a bottle of whiskey and a blanket draped over him. So
clearly he's in shock because he has a blanket.
I'm in shock. Look, I've got a blanket.
We'll put the reference up.
Yeah.
This has been such a heated debate, and I see you trying so hard to control yourself.
Was this, when you see contextually in the movie, some time has passed. Because it took him some time to probably find all that stuff.
Because none of this is actually referenced in the movie, so it's like it would have been. I highly doubt they ever would have been it happened off screen.
Right.
You can't do that many times.
Right. Again, a very small window of opportunity, not very likely because there is no evidence that any other creatures around. However, obviously the creature is very intelligent. It would like you said, not put all its eggs in one basket. In the final form, maybe there was something else. It could have attacked him in the meantime, and now he's a thing.
But it's not shown in the movie, so you can't say if we're taking it in movie context. Yeah. He throws the stick, he combat rolls out, and then the next time you see him, he's been searching through stuff.
Right.
Finds his JB, finds a blanket, and tries to find somewhere comfortable to sit.
Right, and he's ready to just chill out, welcome oblivion, and that's it. Some people who believe McCready was a thing sooner in the movie.
A lot of people think he faked the blood test.
Somehow. And it's like, I don't believe that either because he was under such scrutiny because, one, he had all of them at his mercy. If he was a thing, he could have done anything he wanted.
He could have just converted all of them right then.
Right. Also, he would have been under such scrutiny if he was, in fact, a thing. It's like, you can't suddenly, it's like, oh, I'm going to get my blood now. No, no, everybody else is going to be watching him. All of those eyes are on him. So, especially because they all think he's a thing at this point as well. A lot of them are very suspicious of him. So they're really keeping an eye on him for the slightest thing to be out of place, and they're going to jump on.
Ultimately, it's just not because some people even argue, why didn't you see his blood being drawn? Would you want to see seeing every single one?
Yeah, because you're not going to.
It's boring.
Right.
No.
The filmmakers weren't going to go step by step for everything. No, they show a couple of them what happens, and that's just demonstrating what everybody had to go through. So yes, Mac is still human at that point.
Slicing a finger, wiping it on his pants, recontaminating himself, and moving on.
Hey, that's proper sterilization. I don't know why you have any qualms with it.
All right, we talked to Tom Waits about that.
If Mac is a thing at the end, like I said, it would be kind of messed up. No contextual evidence. But also at the same time, some people would say, well, if he was a thing, he would just attack Childs. Well, Childs has the flamethrower right there. It would be folly to lunge at him in any way, and he's just going to get burned.
No, it would make sense what he says. Let's just go to sleep and see what happens.
Right.
Fall asleep and wait.
He said he could either wait for Childs to fall asleep and then attack, or just simply wait for him to freeze to death and then freeze itself. There's no threat.
Wait for rescue,
and just wait for the rescue. Mm-hmm. Again, we don't think this is a very likely scenario. There's no evidence to it. There really isn't. That's what we have for if Mac could have been a thing. Next up, we're going to see if is Childs a thing.
This is what a lot of people go with.
Right. First off, before we get into the context of the movie, we're going to dispel a few myths or debunk a few hypotheses. First
this is only in movie context.
Only in the context of the movie. It has nothing to do with prequels, sequels, scripts, none of it.
If you watch
the context of the movie itself. The breath idea. Especially in the 4K release, you can see Childs' breath during that final scene. You can see it's very subtle. It just has something to do with the lighting. That's all there is to it.
It wasn't even added in. It's not something that they added in. It's just when the film gets cleaned up over time, it was always there. It's just you can see it better now.
Right.
But he's being backlit, and there's also flames from the sides.
So you do see his breath. And also, Bennings earlier was discovered to be a thing, and he does that yell, and there's breath coming out of his mouth. The thing not having breath, it just doesn't work. It really doesn't. The next one is about his coat. You see Childs is wearing a particular coat when they come in and say, we're going to give Blair the test.
It's quite a dark color. It's like a navy.
It's a very dark blue navy coat. And it says, all right, we're going to go give it, and then they leave Childs alone. They go up and they take care of it, and then they see Childs come out of the entrance and take off into the snow. Before that happens, you see almost like this POV shot. It almost look as if the POV of the thing, going up to that room, and you see the room is empty. Now, first when they go talk to Childs, the coats were arranged a certain way. You can see that on the wall. When they come to the POV part, their coats are arranged differently.
And this is how people have gotten very picky about this whole thing. A lot of people have argued that the coats switch out. We'll explain more in the filmmakers.
All right.
They say the coat color changes.
Right.
When you look at when Knowles comes in, when Knowles and McCready had gone up to the shack and Windows came inside and they were doing all that stuff. When Knowles comes back in, and you can see he's doing that thing that if any of you have shoveled snow and been out in the cold, and you do that where you're trying, okay, my hands are still moving, I don't have frostbite yet. He's doing that. He's clearly cold. He's been out in the cold and in a storm for a while. Mm-hmm. You can actually see that he's covered in like frost, like a thin layer of frost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all over his coat is that thin white layer.
Yeah, but if you look closely, you can see the certain areas that were like had overlapped or where like part of the hood covered. You can still see that color.
Because when he unzips his coat and you see the inside of the flap, you can see that it's the tannish color coat that he was wearing. And
so in movie context, well, Childs' stuff says no. Childs was outside for a very long time. You can see it by like I think his eyelashes even have like frost.
Yeah, a little bit of frost on what little facial hair he has.
Right. It's not that he changed. It ripped through his clothes and now he's got a lighter colored coat on. It's still that dark coat. It's just covered in frost. Mm-hmm. So that's that in context of the movie, that kind of gets defeated.
Because some people argued that it was a different color coat, but in fact it is the same coat. Just it has that layer of ice and frost over it, so
it looks lighter.
It looks different. And then the last thing is the bottle of whiskey.
Biggest argument takes place over this.
Where some people believe that the bottle was filled with gasoline or kerosene instead of whiskey. Again, this contextually speaking, this does not make sense. One, they had all those Molotov cocktails, and it doesn't make sense to empty the bottle of one flammable liquid for another.
Yeah, because a lot of people talk about, they were going through and filling all these bottles with gasoline or whatever. It's like, alcohol is highly flammable. Do you want me to tell Grandma's story?
Sure.
My great-grandma. Alcohol is highly flammable and will burn blue the higher the alcohol goes.
And it burns very hot.
My great-grandmother used to make bathtub gin. And she would send my grandmother to go check on it. How do I check on it? Take a ladle full out of it, pour it on the tile floor, and light it. If it's blue, we're ready to go. Yeah, you're not going to throw out one, especially they're trying to do this. I mean, they're putting a lot of things together, wrapping dynamite, trying to, what we say, A-team the tractor. You're not going to take all that time to dump out a ton of liquid that's already flammable to refill it with a different type of flammable liquid. Mm-hmm. No, I've heard things too about Molotov cocktails. You take alcohol, you shove a rag in, you shake it so the rag gets wet, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. That's all you need to do.
It's going to burn, and alcohol actually burns hotter and faster than
gasoline. Yeah.
Gasoline, yeah. So but he didn't have any more Molotov cocktails left; they were all done. So he went and found that J&B somewhere.
Right, because when he's leaving the thing or the underground to escape the explosion, he doesn't have anything on him. He's just running up, and he has nothing. He doesn't have any more of it. He rummages around and finds that bottle later. But you do see him sit down, and he's ready to take a drink until Child shows up. If that's gasoline, why was he about to drink it? I don't believe that he was going to commit suicide with gasoline, or like he says, like just in case somebody happens to show up.
Why would you need to commit suicide by drinking gasoline and go through pain when you could just go to sleep with the cold?
Right. Again, contextually speaking, it doesn't make any sense to us.
And Mac isn't the kind to kill himself. He's the kind to just say, you know, F you all the way. He's like, you're going to take me, you're going to take me.
Right. Handing the bottle over to Childs, even if it were gasoline, and goes, oh, and the creature didn't know. The creature absorbs the memories of its victims. One, most adult humans know what gasoline is, so the creature would know.
You know the smell.
But Childs is a mechanic. Obviously, he's going to know what types of fuels are what.
What you put high test in this for? You know,
it's 98 octane, nice. So the creature would know. So that again is just, it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't fit. This is how our interpretation is. If you want to believe something different, that's great, and that's where we have the comment section. Have a nice discussion. Have a good debate. Just be nice, please. And then now we're going to move on to the contextual evidence that may be for or against what we believe Childs may or may not be the thing. What clues are there contextually that indicate that Childs may have been assimilated? Honestly, there aren't many. We know they're both human after the blood test, and Mac, Knowles, and Gary go up to Toolshed to take care of Blair. Childs is left alone. So Childs is off camera for a while because they're going up there. They see that that Blair is not in the tool shed. They find his little hidey hole. They're getting ready to blow up the ship, and then that's when Knowles looks out and sees Childs stumble out into the snow and then into the storm. There's that time there, however long that took, that he could have been assimilated. But it doesn't, to me, contextually, it doesn't look that way. The POV shot, again, as we mentioned before, it looks down at the doorway of the basement where the generator is. Then it goes up and looks at that room. Childs is not there. And then it cuts to Knowles seeing Childs stumble out into the snow. So basically, from my point of view, that thing was looking for Childs.
If that's what it's even meant to be. I mean, you don't really know.
It looks like it to me from, that kind of thing, because it's like looking down and then...
It was honestly the one part in the movie I felt didn't fit.
Because everything you don't normally have a POV of something.
Right, and it's like because we had discussed this a little earlier in this video where you're the 13th crew member, and it just felt odd to have them as this like handheld camera searching kind of thing, and like allegedly what appears to be like the point of view of the creature.
Right.
When it's like, but you didn't do that really any other time. It always felt odd to me. And there's no, if that's the choice they wanted to do, or if it was just kind of like just trying to show that everything's empty now. I don't know. But that's what it seems like. It seems like a fair amount of people think that that's what that was meant to be too.
So it's to me, I always looked at it that way for as long as I remember watching the movie. And so the creature's looking for Childs, but he's already took off out into the storm. So why would Childs do that if the thing was inside? We know already that it's established character-wise that Childs is impulsive and hot-headed. Add to that however many days, though this is towards the end, so they've been 6 or 7 days based on our timeline we watched earlier. Stress, terror, anxiety, extreme fear, not eating well, not drinking well, not sleeping. All of that compounded into someone who's already impulsive and hot-headed. He sees the little tiniest glimpse out in the storm. He's like, that's him. He's going to tear off after and it's like, I'm going to get this damn thing.
I mean, even in the context of the movie, if you've actually been in a snowstorm, the way the snow and the wind blows, sometimes it looks like something just moved. And he's already, like you say, he's already in this heightened state. So even if the wind just blew funny, he'd be like, I'm going to kill them. Right. I'm gonna kill the mother. You could, try to take it from Childs' point of view. He feels, well, they're out and they don't know.
Yes.
I have to do
He's watching their back.
Or he isn't sure if they're dead already. He's like, all right, I'm the only one left.
Don't know,
yeah. Or it's just delirium and he says, well, I'm going.
So, during that point, there's a part where Childs is off camera, so to speak, off screen. I still don't think it's very likely, but it's of the 2 times when you see him off camera since then that is the more likely version, because once he disappears into the storm,
then they start prepping.
The generator is blown, and because you can see it's even in the same shot. Childs wanders off, and then the lights dim. So the thing is already in the basement at that point. So he's not going after Childs. Another contention is, well, Childs could have been assimilated while he's out wandering lost in the storm. I don't know if the thing would have had time, because it was already in the basement blowing the generator. Would it have time to come back out, look for Childs in the storm, and try to find him, assimilate him, which we know takes time.
While they're putting all that stuff, while they're A-teaming everything. I hate to keep saying that, but I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah, they're gearing up for their final confrontation.
What we need is a montage.
So that, again, doesn't seem very likely, because the thing would have to come out of the basement, find Child, assimilate him, and then go back to the basement, wait for the others. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
It doesn't, and yet if it was going to happen, that's when it would happen.
Since the blood test, there are 2 times when Child is off camera. Both of those times, in our opinion, don't seem very likely based on...
There is time for it to have happened.
There is time for it to have happened.
Because now you kind of get the impression, it's never really seen, but you get the impression that the creature could probably split and send something after here. You go, I'm going to tear you off, here arm, go look for Child's. I'll grow a new arm and just keep going. Yeah.
Right. So when Childs returns after Mac has blown up the base and maybe killed the thing, he shows up again. What I'm thinking is Childs is probably human at this point, because what happened? He runs out into the storm trying to kill Blair, gets lost, and you can clearly see he's suffering from the cold. The explosions happen. He's like a beacon. Something's going down.
Well, he's probably the explosion start, and then it's almost like a chain reaction. Mm-hmm. So he probably duck and cover for a little while until it's okay. This is done. All right, now let me go.
Right. So we don't even know how far he got or where he was during all that time.
Right.
And because the explosions happen, and then you see there's some time has passed, and Mac comes around out of the rubble, and then Child shows up. He could have been who knows how far away, using the fires after the fact as a guide to get back to the camp. To me, that's a human thing. Because if it was a thing waiting to be left in the cold freeze, then it would have just stayed out.
Yeah, but it wants to be located, so it would definitely try to make sure it's somewhere where
within the vicinity of the camp,
where they would be searching.
Mm-hmm. But to me, it just seems a very human thing to do. Is like fire is warmth, fire is safety. Come back to the camp, and he doesn't know what he's walking into either. So he finds Mac.
You say it's a human thing, but it takes all your mind and memories. So if it's imitating humans and it's so savvy enough to, like we talked about, Blair-Thing got himself isolated. If it's that savvy, it would know to hang around.
That's the other thing.
You finally did it.
It knows human behavior, so it would know how to behave like a human. So again, more ambiguity, and we're stuck without really knowing, because there's no contextual evidence to indicate one way or the other, honestly. Now we're going to move on to the next part contextually, is that they're both human. This, in our opinion, is the likeliest of scenario, and this is the one I've always believed, that they're both human.
From what they say and how they act when it's going to sound really funny here. When you try not to overanalyze it, the movie just reads as they're both human. But we're sitting here overanalyzing.
Right. Again, we mentioned they both passed the blood test, so we know they're both human up to a certain point. There are times when Childs is off camera on his own.
But we just said he's lost, he's whatever in a storm, da-da-da.
Mac is there waiting to die, basically, and then Child shows up. And they have this dialogue, and I do believe it's the best interpretation is that they're both human, because they're both sitting there completely exhausted, tired of the crap, the anxiety, the fear, the lack of food, sleep, everything is just coming down on top of them, because it looks like they have completed their mission. They have defeated the thing, and now they can just slump and just rest. And you see that, the fatigue, the weariness, and you see even Mac, he just starts to go, it's like, I can't even hold my head up anymore, and he just lays down.
It's almost like he handed the bottle over, going, this shit's heavy, you take it. You hold it for a while, I'm good.
So it does. It seems like it's a very human way to go, is that they have saved the planet at the cost of their own life. And that's why Mac has that little chuckle at the end. It's like, we did it. We did it.
Yeah.
And as a firefighter who been on incidents where it took a long time to either put the fire out or complete a really complex rescue, when you're at the end, you are exhausted. And you do feel that way. You're just like, especially when you save lives and you just go, because you're thankful that it's over.
Well, you say it's that adrenaline crash, too. Right. When adrenaline crashes out of your system, you're so much more tired.
And then you have that satisfaction of basically a job well done. So that's what they're doing. It's like, we saved humanity from this awful fate, and we can just basically kind of die happy that they're the saviors of the world, even if nobody will know it.
I'm going to go to sleep now, and I don't care what happens. Well, you even said you fought fires at one time where you had a mustache back then, and it was the water.
The ice crystals would gather on the hair of my mustache, and it felt so weird.
And you're trying to, I can't imagine I'm sure that's makeup on Kurt Russell's beard, but if it was real ice, like the whole face to be like.
Yeah.
But yeah, you said that, and then you're trying to do stuff in the cold.
Mm-hmm.
Is so much harder. Again, back to the shoveling and the driveway reference. You're good. You're like gung ho and ready to go at first, but like a couple passes of the driveway, and you're like, crap. Do I really need to get out?
Right. It's especially when it's really really cold and there's a lot of snow. Being out there for even half an hour is tough. The right way to go to end this movie is that they saved humanity at the cost of their own lives, and they seem perfectly fine with that. They have accepted their fate. And that's it.
Oh, and so many people, reaction videos, comment sections for years. That's it? That's the end? Are you kidding
me? Because they're thinking, okay, what's going to happen next? And then you get the credits and like,
wait, what?
That's the end? A lot of people were very happy with it. There were some who were actually disappointed in the ending. It just seemed because it doesn't give you answers.
You want the end? Yeah. I want more of an answer.
For me, like I said, I've watched this movie ever since I was 6. I've always looked at it that way, that they are both human, because it always seemed the most poetic way to go.
And that's the end of, if you just look in the context of the movie.
Right.
Honestly, if you look in the context of the movie, it doesn't really give you a clue for any of the 4. Kind of. It's and please don't get angry at John Carpenter for leaving so much ambiguous and so much out there.
And that's one of the things we want to mention again. You have your own opinions, you have your own thoughts. Go ahead and let us know what you think in the comments. But again, if somebody disagrees with you, be nice about it. Don't have to be rude.
But entertain the other option as well, as we asked you to do that with Blair. If you're a staunch believer that Blair was human when his freak out, just let yourself believe, even just for one time, that he was a thing, and it changes it. Believe the 4 different endings.
Right. I says, even if you want to watch this movie, if you love watching this movie over and over again, watch it, the ending, with those 4 different options in mind. Go and think about it. And it's like, it really does create some interesting options and ways of telling a story.
Or you can go with the St. Elsewhere's ending and think it was just some kid who likes horror movies staring at a snow globe. And it's they're really just figures of his imagination.
All right, now we've come to the part where we're going to discuss the filmmaker's intentions with the ending. But first, we want to debunk a few things. First is Child's coat changing hypothesis. That is just simply not the case. At one point, you see him a coat, the room with the coats is different. That's just simply a continuity error. Both of those scenes were shot on different days. One of them was probably just even second unit. John Carpenter wasn't even involved. That's all it really is. That's all it comes down to. It's just continuity. There's no intention there.
Yeah, when they redressed the set to film again, I don't think they were concerned about people scrutinizing the movie.
No, they never thought people would do that
so vehemently. So yeah, they just put coats up, right, and then go. Yeah, that's what it really came down to. That's what they say.
When it comes to the breath idea with Childs, Cohen in his blog says that they struggled a lot with this ending, getting it the way they wanted, and it was cut, recut. There was no intention, there was no subtlety involved as far as, even with the glint in the eyes or anything like that. They just wanted to get the scene down. There was no subtle intention or anything like that. So again, and you do see his breath. So there's nothing there. There's just all there is to it. It's
they were very conscious the whole movie to make sure you felt cold, because they had the blue light, but they also made sure there was breath for cold all the time. When they were shooting in LA, the set was kept cool, and Joel even talked about that. They realized you needed moisture in the air, not just temperature. So they were very conscious of that. It's just, unfortunately, when you're backlit, as you see, he's being backlit, and then a little bit of firelight type.
There's also
lighting.
Shadows from whatever structures left is casting on him. So that's all there is to it. It's not.
Some people talk about, and Gene Cundy is a genius with lighting, but it's like there's some things you just, it's good enough.
Yeah, because it was outside, there's firelight elsewhere, so it's just, there's nothing there.
And in the modern versions, they didn't add it. It wasn't added after the fact. It's just because it cleaned up, you see it better.
You see it better. And then it comes to the whiskey bottle. Carpenter himself in a tweet says,
"That's whiskey.
It's whiskey in the bottle.
It's whiskey in the jar."
And again, when you look at it,
I'm sorry.
When you look at it contextually, it just still doesn't make any sense to be gasoline. That's all there is to it. It's whiskey.
And I think the filmmakers never said that they swapped out anything for gasoline. It's just it's all alcohol, and that is just a bottle of straight up whiskey. If J&B is your drink of choice, more power to you.
Right.
So that's that little
tidbit there. So now we're going to get into the possible endings for this movie, because there were a number of alternate endings compared to what you see now. What you see now is the one they actually wanted. What they intended is what you got. There was an alternate ending that was very, very close to being put into the movie instead of what you see now. And that was where MacReady emerges from the rubble. He has his bottle. He sits down, drinks his bottle, and fades back black. And that's it. It's ended. Just like how it ends now. It's just Childs never shows up again. That's it.
They never have that little bit of dialogue.
No, none of that. Another ending actually is not mentioned in Stuart Cohen's blog, but I asked him directly in an email because someone else had said this in a YouTube video somewhere. I don't remember which one. Where it was as soon as the whole camp blows up, then they fade to black and then credits.
Wouldn't you have been? I mean, a lot of people are so they're happily disappointed in this ending because it's just left so ambiguous. But wouldn't have that been well, that's shit? Yeah, if it just blew up and done, it's wait, so did he live or what?
Right. So if you ended Star Wars when this Death Star blows up without all that award ceremony and all the celebration afterwards, it's
right.
The hell, man.
Yeah. So it really would have been a bit.
It was not even a real idea because Stuart said they were just kicking around the idea. The other alternate one, which was one they had hoped would never need to be used, it was shot, ended up on a cutting room floor, never to be seen again. It is where MacReady somehow survives and leaves the camp, and he is. Stuart refers to it as a dolly shot coming down, and the camera slowly turns into a room, and you see MacReady there in the blanket that where you see him wearing at the end, freezing, getting a blood test done.
Assuming it's at McMurdo station.
Yeah, that's the idea. He was supposed to be at McMurdo. That scene was actually shot in Heartland, where Rob Bottin is doing all the special effects work. They found a hallway.
All right, but wasn't that the one? Is that the one where they're we shot it? Mm-hmm. Don't ever do not tell the studio because that's going to be the one they're going to want to go with.
Because it's of all of the endings, it's the happiest. And what happens is they shot it and they had no intention of using it, but it was just kind of this insurance policy just in case. And
basically, if the studio said no to all of this, you reluctantly go, well,
we have this. That's shot, and they never tell the studio. I said, Stuart even tells me in the email, in all caps, do not show this to the studio execs.
This one says, show to the IRS.
And what's the other one say?
Never. Show to the IRS.
But like I said, the other ending where it was Mac kind of dies alone. What they did, they shot those two scenes. They actually put the movie together with both of those two different endings. They went and did a test screening of both of them at the same time.
The ending you see now, or just Mac
just Mac off on his own. They put out 2 cards and asked questions, and they came back. There was a slight favor for the MacReady on his own ending. So the studio was like, all right, let's do that. And they were this close to putting all of the films to print for distribution. So this was tight scheduling here. And over the weekends, they felt restless. They couldn't live with themselves. And they said, let's go back to the original ending because that's the one we want and that's the one we feel most comfortable with in telling the story. So that is the ending you have. There is a caveat, though. The studio says you have to put that little scream you hear at the end as the big explosion happens.
Big explosion happens.
That was their little okay. Basically, as if saying they got the creature. It's screaming in pain. They got it.
Yeah, it's and you kind of reluctantly go, yeah, I'll give on that one.
Right. So
I'll give you that.
Yeah. So they got the ending they wanted, and there you have it.
How did this ending come to be?
They have an ending in the script, but that's not what you see. A lot of people don't realize that even before Kurt Russell was cast, John was talking to him, had a dialogue with him about the movie as they went along. And that continued after Kurt Russell was cast. Bill Lancaster, the scriptwriter, John Carpenter, the director, they were struggling to find an ending.
Kind of the whole time. They're I'm not really sure how to end this.
The hero, Kurt Russell, comes along. And he comes up, like I said, they've been in a dialogue this whole time. And Kurt Russell comes up with the idea of what you actually see now. So that's all Kurt Russell right there, what you see.
According to the commentary, when you watch Kurt Russell end with John Carpenter, essentially Kurt wrote the dialogue as well. It's not just, why don't you do this? And somebody says, no.
Right.
John says, you write it, go ahead and write it, we'll give it a shot. We'll film it and we'll give it a shot. And
especially that last line, let's just sit here and see what happens.
Yeah.
That was it just nailed it right there. John, Kurt, Stuart, they're all very happy that you have the ending you see because that is what they wanted. And now it's deliberately ambiguous because that's what they wanted.
And yet, when Kurt was writing it and Kurt was deciding how to do it, he says, and that's in the commentary, he says
he felt that they were both human.
Kurt Russell wrote it as they are both human. Just having a conversation, resigning themselves to the fate at hand, and it's done. And then you say, let's just sit here and see what happens, and it's fade to black and roll credits. Cut, print, check the gate.
During the commentary, Carpenter is, again, deliberately ambiguous as to, at one point he even says they both freeze to death, which would be an indicator that he believes they're human. But then when then he says, well, we were toying around with MacReady being a thing at one point. And then Kurt was, well, he's human now. And he goes, well, John goes, well, I don't know. And then he's like, oh, you're going to start that again. So
it's like they turned into this little married couple.
Right,
you're going to start that again, honey. I've been having this argument for 40 years.
Right. Carpenter, ever since the movie was made, has been back and forth, and he never, ever definitively says one thing or another. Now, there is a tweet where he says one of them is a thing at the end.
That's new.
That's relatively new.
Because there's other stuff where there's a video game that came... When did the video game originally come out?
The original video game came out in 2002.
It's supposed to be pickup where they get picked up, they're rescued. The video game says they are both human. And at one point in John Carpenter was... I cannot find it. I've tried to look for it. But people say he was quoted as saying, yes, that's what happened.
Other people struggle to find that as well. However,
so that's where it gets like, that's where it becomes like, goes from legend to myth now.
Right.
Because it's like, well, okay, where is this?
Because Carpenter's actually in the game. He plays Dr. Faraday, which actually has his likeness. I don't remember if he has his voice or not. I can't remember. But he's given that game his endorsement. Yes. So a lot of people take it, well, the game must be canon.
Yeah.
The rescue team or the commando team or whomever they are show up. We haven't played the game yet, but we got it. So we're going to.
Yeah, by the way, you got. I'm not sure what other platforms it's available on, but if you go on Steam, I really do not know if it's available on Twitch. I would assume so. But yeah, you don't have to get the, was it PS2 it originally came out on.
Right. You can play it on your PC.
Yeah, you can play it on the PC. So it's still available and it's been remastered. So if you want to play, it's
remastered this year. But when whatever team it is shows up, Mac froze to death. Or no, excuse me, Childs froze to death. He's human. Mac is nowhere to be found. At the end of the game, when you beat the final boss...
Found. Well, he is fine, so...
There's a mysterious helicopter pilot that gives you a hand in defeating the final boss. And he's revealed to be R.J. MacReady. They're both human.
So unfortunately, one does not survive.
No, unfortunately not. Kurt Russell, it seems like he believes they're both human.
That's how he wrote it.
Right.
If you want to look, it's like he wrote the ending. He says it. It's okay. MacReady and Kurt, they're definitely, Kurt feels they're both human. John Carpenter he literally has been trolling, before trolling was a thing.
Right, even before that term was used for that kind of thing.
He has been trolling the audience on the ending. So you'll never get a straight answer.
No, you never will.
Stuart Cohen
in his blog, Bill Lancaster has since passed away, but Stuart says that Bill wrote it, they were both human. He said he's felt it was more poetic that way.
Bill believed the way Kurt wrote it. He agreed to.
Right. Well, when Bill was writing his version of the story, he felt that the two survivors were still human, regardless of how the scene plays out. Stuart believes that as well. He feels that they're both human. We interviewed Tom Waits and Joel Polis on Zoom. Both of them are non-committal when it comes to this answer.
Well, their characters are dead. They don't give a shit.
I asked Norbert Weiser, who played the Norwegian with the rifle. He hasn't seen the movie in a long time, and he has no answer either. So it seems like a lot of people either say yes or no, but most of the time people they don't seem to have an answer. Keith David.
Well, here's where it starts going.
Right.
So, because so far, Kurt, the person who writes it, says they're both. John's non-committal purposely, and that's just him. Stuart and Bill Lancaster both say they're both, but now here's where it gets odd. Even so, to say definitively, even the filmmakers argue over it.
Yeah, there's a disagreement amongst those who made the movie, yeah.
Because Keith David was, if you are not aware, John Carpenter, I want to say March or May.
March or April, I think.
Earlier this spring.
In the spring, yeah.
He got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame,
right.
So almost everybody from The Thing was there, plus some of his other movies.
And Keith David, he was invited to give a speech. He steps up to the podium, and the first thing he goes,
"First, let me clear this up. It wasn't me. Okay?"
Now, other times he's done interviews in the past, he seems to indicate maybe he was.
I watched an interview, it was like late 90s, early 2000s, where he does believe Child was a thing at the end. And he says nothing about what he was drinking, nothing. He's not 100% committed to that. He kind of dances around it, but kind of more leans toward he was a creature and not human. But now he's saying different. So okay, he's not committed.
Everybody is loving to add to the mystery of this whole thing. Because even if you probably were asked Kurt Russell straight up right now, he wouldn't give you a definitive answer, even though it seems like he really had them both being human in mind when he created that scene.
No, if you talk to Kurt Russell now about the thing, he's going to bring up the hat. He's still not letting it go.
As far as any of the other people involved in the movie, we really don't know. I can't think of anybody else. Dean Cundey, I think, believes that Childs was a thing.
Well, Dean Cundey, in his commentary, he specifically talks about the ending, and he tells because there's someone else that I'm so bad. Please put the name below.
Who's interviewing him?
Yeah, somebody's like interviewing him as they're watching the film. I'm not sure how well casual viewers know. We said earlier he's a genius of lighting. He actually did a thing with the blood test scene. It is not anywhere else in the movie. It is only as you're going down the individuals to get blood tested. He did a thing where humans get a glint in their eye, a reflection of light. He made sure Palmer did not have that, and it's only a short bit in a scene. It's not anywhere else in the movie.
Just before Palmer's blood is tested is the only point where you see that glint missing.
So when he's talking in his commentary at the end, and they're actually, you can skip right to the end scene if you wish. He believed Child was a thing, and he said he tried to leave the glint out of his eye. Unfortunately, because of how it's dark and there's things, you do see a reflection here and there. But Dean Cundey swears, in his opinion, and the way he filmed it, Childs was a creature. So now you get into this whole wishy-washy where there were other things where either Blair is a thing at this point. No, this is meant to be Palmer, and then these were left 100% ambiguous. We had nobody made a decision, nothing. It was shot to leave it empty. Here's where even in the ending, the filmmakers disagree. I mean, cinematographer, he's like, he's the eyes and ears of the director, essentially.
More or less, yeah.
So for those two to not, it's like, well, Kurt writes it and he says this, and Dean's like, well, I'm shooting it this way. So it's kind of like, okay. And so now we're getting to whatever you say, you're right and wrong all at the same time, because they're even arguing over it.
Right, and that's the beauty part of especially this ending. You can interpret it however way you wish, and that is your opinion, and you are very well much entitled to it. No, we can continue to have the discussion in the comments below. Please be nice.
And don't get mad at us for so many things like you didn't give us a definitive answer. We're telling you there isn't one.
The filmmakers had no definitive answer. However, she and I, we both believe they're human at the end.
Right.
But that's just us. There's a lot of people who disagree with us. There's some people who do.
Because I'm going to say more of the filmmakers say they're both human. And the way it's left, it makes sense that they're both human. I'm not just saying that. I'm just saying this whole thing. Because when we talk about who got to the blood and how did Fuchs die, we're not giving you definitive answers. Because even when they wrote it, it wasn't like, in my mind, I want it to be so-and-so, so I'm going to leave clues. They didn't do that.
Right.
It was supposed to be left totally up to your interpretation and your imagination to run with it. Please don't be angry at us that we actually did not give you a definitive answer. We're just letting you know there isn't one. So you're all right and you're all wrong all at the same time.
And honestly, a lot of the people, John Carpenter, Stewart, and the actors, they are genuinely kind of surprised how much scrutiny and how much dedication so many people have to discussing what could have happened when. That was something they had never intended, that's something they were never even conceived of when they were making it, but they are so happy that the legend of this film continues all the way up until 2025, 43 years after the fact. That's just awesome.
You're still thinking the 80s are only 20 years ago, aren't you?
Yeah, I know.
You're in elementary school, man. So when it comes to extras, we already talked about the video game that came out. They had a comic book series. Comic book series has them both being human.
Right. And we're going to, after the movie came out and all the aftermath and
that's
expanded stuff, that's going to be discussed in part 3, but we're going to talk a little bit right now.
Yeah, we're just going to get, the comic books say they are both human and it runs from there.
Right.
The video game says they're both human, even though unfortunately Childs has passed. They run from there. And then you read the script. It's out there.
Right. Outpost 31, the John Carpenter, The Thing fan site has a location for the script for an unproduced miniseries that was supposed to take place, I think, roughly around 2004, about a continuation of the thing. It takes place, no, that was roughly, 20 some odd years after the fact.
Gosh, the early 2000s.
The Soviets find Mac and Childs both froze to death, both human. And the thing gets out because they find a sample within the ship. But that's more detail about that later on. But it's interesting to see that there are 3 different things that are playing up as a direct sequel to this movie.
And they all go
all
by.
3 of them say that Mac and Childs are human at the end. So
it's, if you want to start arguing, unfortunately, if you were to get a sequel, anything that was sequel like does continue the fact that how Mr. Russell wrote it, they're both human, and it just goes from there. So yeah, I'm not sure what any other movie. The only other movie extra is like John Carpenter has been saying stuff lately about it, where he says he knows what it is. How does he go? I know. Okay, if you watch the movie,
if you pay close attention,
somewhere around the middle to the end, and you pay close attention, what is it? And then you send me money.
Send me a check in the mail.
Oh, I'll tell you.
He's having fun with it decades after the fact. I have a feeling
he's bullshitting you and teasing you.
I do. Somehow I have it in my heart that I have a feeling that when he passes, he's going to leave behind something that's going to tell everybody.
His will and testament has this little envelope to open.
To tell everybody what's what. That's kind of what I believe. Who knows what's really going to happen?
No, he's taking this to his grave. He is.
Honestly, the most likely scenario is that's probably what's going to happen.
But you also got word from Stewart. He says.
And it says, Stewart has his own feelings, but he says, if John says he knows who's who at the end, trust him. Just make sure he takes a blood test first.
And that's what Stewart actually does say.
Here's the email now.
So that's the thing. That's the ending, and that's the thing of the thing.
That's John Carpenter's The Thing.
We want to thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share, and comment if you've learned anything. And please give us a little hint that you made it this far. Put a dragon and mermaid emoji in the comments.
Thank you.